After being betrayed, I hastily married a rich heir. The Jiang family went bankrupt, her fiancé cheated on her, and Jiang Zhining married a cripple. Everyone was waiting to see the joke of the eldest daughter of the Jiang family. But the joke was not seen, and the cripple suddenly became Mr. Sanye at the top of the pyramid of the imperial capital. Chapter 1, Hastily Married. Miss, I've received a tip. The board meeting will be held next week. Before that, you must complete the inheritance procedures. Otherwise, the company your father invested all his efforts in might really fall into someone else's hands. The marriage certificate is something you must handle urgently. The lawyer, Uncle Ju, urged over the phone. Jiang Zhining's gaze fell upon the handsome man lying on the hospital bed, eyes tightly shut. She gently spoke, Uncle Ju, don't worry. I already have a plan. A month ago, Jiang's company suffered a financial crisis, and her father passed away in a car accident, leaving behind a will that entrusted the company, which he had dedicated his life to her. But to inherit the company, there was one condition: she must be married. Originally, this wouldn't have been difficult for her. However, when she went to the civil affairs office with her household registration book to marry her fiancé, she discovered that he had been cheating. Who are you? A weak voice sounded, hoarse from just waking up. Jiang Zhining snapped back to reality, looking up at the man. His face was pale, but his handsome and flawless features were still present: sharp eyebrows, deep-set eyes, and a gaze as dark as ink, chillingly sharp. Just a brief exchange of glances with him, and Jiang Zhining felt a cold shiver. You're awake. Bo Hanyang stared at her with a deep gaze, his sharp eyes slightly shifting. It's her? The girl who had declared she would marry him at the bar, and the one who saved him from the hands of death last night. Do you remember the promise you made before you passed out? Jiang Zhining asked. Bo Hanyang's eyes cooled further. Before he fell unconscious last night, he had indeed promised this woman that he would repay her as long as she saved him. Millimeter. The man spoke sparingly. Jiang Zhining paused. I don't need anything else in return. I want to marry you. Marry him. Did this woman plan everything when she saved him last night? Was she sent by someone else? Bo Hanyang narrowed his eyes, exuding a cold aura as he looked down at her, silent. Seeing that he hadn't spoken for a while, Jiang Zhining took a deep breath. Don't worry. I just need the marriage certificate to handle something. We can divorce immediately after getting the certificate. With the cooling off period for divorces, a month is enough for me to take care of everything. As long as you agree, I can give you an additional 200,000 yuan, which should cover a year or two of your salary as a driver. The doctor said your legs are broken and might be permanently disabled. With the 200,000 yuan, at least your life will be secure for the near future. When she saved him last night, the man was driving a very ordinary car, most likely working as a ride-hailing driver. A driver? Did this girl think he was just a driver? Was this a genuine misunderstanding, or was it part of a fake act? Bo Hanyang's gaze stayed fixed, seemingly in deep thought. After a long pause, he pushed himself up from the bed and said in a commanding tone, "Let us go." Jiang Zhining instinctively reached out to support him. Where to? Didn't you want to get the marriage certificate? His tone was assertive and domineering, and Jiang Zhining realized he had agreed. You agreed? But you just woke up. Besides, I haven't prepared a prenuptial agreement. Just getting the certificate won't kill me, he said calmly. I didn't mean that. To get the certificate, we need the household registration book. Did you bring it? Or should we go to your place to get it? No need, it's in my bag. Jiang Zhining froze, opening the briefcase on the bedside table. Indeed, their household registration book was inside. Who would carry their household registration book around with them? You don't already have a spouse, do you? Were you already planning to get the marriage certificate? She asked suspiciously. Bo Hanyang's dark eyes took on a faint trace of hostility. He stared at her, his expression unreadable, yet it made Jiang Zhining feel immense pressure. Jiang Zhining wanted to look away, but she had to get an answer to this question. She didn't want to end up as the third party unknowingly. After a brief silence, the man spoke two words, no. Was that a no to having a spouse, or a no to planning to get the certificate? Jiang Zhining still had doubts, but she had no intention of prying into the man's privacy. The marriage certificate was only a temporary solution, and it was probably best if they didn't know too much about each other. She had already planned to go get the certificate with her household registration book, so there was no need to go back and get it. So, the two of them left the hospital and went straight to the civil affairs office. The process of getting the marriage certificate was much simpler than Jiang Zhining had imagined. She glanced at the certificate again, closed it, and carefully put it in her bag as she pushed the man outside. We should go back to the hospital first. With your current condition, it's better for you to stay hospitalized. Bo Hanyang. The man's cold voice rang out. Jiang Zhining realized her rudeness and quickly apologized. Sorry. Remember this, your legal husband, Bo Hanyang. Jiang Zhining's face flushed, and she softly replied, millimeter. Then, on impulse, she added, my name is Jiang Zhining. It was the first time that Ningchung's top socialite introduced herself so awkwardly. If someone saw her now, they would probably be shocked. The briefcase under the blanket shook slightly, and Bo Hanyang's fingers moved slightly. I need to go to the restroom. Okay. Jiang Zhining paused for a moment, naturally pushing him toward the disabled restroom. I can manage. Jiang Zhining wanted to protest, but when she met his intimidating gaze, she involuntarily nodded. Okay, I'll wait for you here. Just call me if you need anything. Worried that he might feel too embarrassed to speak up, she took out her phone and offered, we can add each other on WeChat, or exchange contact details. No need. The man's voice was cold as he wheeled himself away. Jiang Zhining wasn't upset. She naturally put her phone away. She was just about to sit down and wait for Bo Hanyang when she suddenly heard a familiar voice from behind. Xiao Ning. Jiang Zhining stiffened and turned around. Her face immediately soured. It was Bo Jingxing. Her scumbag ex-fiancé. No, her former fiancé. Xiao Ning, who told you? How did you find me here? I know you have a lot to say. Bo Jingxing was still wearing that gentle expression, trying to comfort Jiang Zhining. He knew her well enough to understand her temperament. This was the civil affairs office, and things could get really messy if this escalated. Jiang Zhining's eyes filled with disdain, and she didn't want to listen to his fake comfort. She interrupted him coldly, enough, I don't have time to listen to your nonsense. With that, she turned and started to walk away. Come with me. Let go. The thought of this hand touching someone else's bare back made Jiang Zhining feel disgusted. She yanked her arm away, not wanting to say a word to Bo Jingxing, and walked off. Bo Jingxing was clearly angered. He grabbed her wrist tightly, and pain followed. Xiao Ning, can you calm down? Chapter 2, What do you think you are? Jiang Zhining's temper was completely triggered by his actions. She forcefully shook off his hand and sneered with contempt. I'm calm, but you, Mr. Bo, I advise you not to lay a hand on me. I find you disgusting. She could still vividly remember the shameful scene she saw last night, her fiancé tangled with the person she despised most, burning with passion, completely oblivious to her presence outside the door. She even overheard them discussing wedding details. She never imagined Bo Jingxing was this kind of person. This was the real him. At first, she didn't have much feeling for Bo Jingxing. But because of his relentless pursuit and her father's previous intentions to arrange a marriage with the Bo family, she reluctantly agreed to be his fiancé. But as soon as the Jiang family encountered trouble, Bo Jingxing immediately betrayed her. Now, he was already preparing to register his marriage with Ji Shitong. How could he still have the face to come and harass her as though nothing had happened? Jiang Zhining gritted her teeth, looking at the man before her, feeling utterly disgusted. Bo Jingxing, listen clearly, we're breaking up. Remember, I don't want you. I'm the one who dumped you. I wouldn't even deign to look at someone as filthy as you. Bo Jingxing's expression slightly changed, the smile vanished from his eyes, but he still reached out to grab her. Xiao Ning, don't say that in anger. I swear, I only play around with her. I love you. But Grandpa said. As he spoke, he moved closer, trying to embrace Jiang Zhining. Slap. Before Bo Jingxing could touch her, Jiang Zhining slapped him hard across the face. The sharp sound interrupted Bo Jingxing's movement. He turned his face, the dismissive smile completely gone, and looked back at her with a mocking expression. Jiang Zhining, do you still think you're the esteemed young lady of the Jiang family? Does everyone have to pamper you and tolerate your foul temper? He paused for a moment, his voice growing colder. Wake up, the Jiang family is bankrupt. If I didn't secretly protect you, the people you offended in the past would have already pounced on you. Do you think you could still stand here in front of me? Jiang Zhining looked at Bo Jingxing's ferocious face and sneered coldly. Finally not pretending. Ready to rip off that disgusting mask of yours. Bo Jingxing both hated and loved the sight before him. He had to admit that Jiang Zhining was delicately beautiful. Especially when she held herself aloof and indifferent like this, every man who saw her couldn't help but feel a desire to conquer her. At first, he had fallen for her stunning looks, and after learning she was the daughter of the Jiang family, he began his intense pursuit. Of course, he succeeded. He made sure everyone in Ningqing knew that Jiang Zhining, the high and mighty flower of Ningqing, was his fiancé. But in reality, he never truly possessed Jiang Zhining. So even now, as he was being forced into an arranged marriage with the Ji family, he couldn't bear to let go of Jiang Zhining. At the very least, he wanted to savor the pleasure of conquering this delicate flower before he let her go. Xiao Ning, I was wrong. Don't be mad. You know I love you. Jingxing, Zhining, what are you two talking about? Jiang Zhining was satisfied by the sudden change in Bo Jingxing's expression. She then raised her eyes to look at Ji Shitong, who was walking over. Ji Shitong was dressed in a white chiffon dress, with black long hair flowing down her back, looking as delicate and weak as a willow in the wind, soft and endearing. But the look in her eyes when she looked at Jiang Zhining was filled with venom and disgust. When she turned to face Bo Jingxing, her demeanor immediately shifted to one of coquettish weakness. Brother Jingxing, I was wondering why I couldn't see you, turns out you were with Zhining. Ji Shitong intimately hooked her arm around Bo Jingxing's, then provocatively smiled at Jiang Zhining. Zhining, what are you doing here? Came to register your marriage? You've done a great job keeping it a secret. So, who is the groom? Is he from the He family or the Jiu family? Jiang Zhining gave her a cold look. You two trashy people are better at hiding things than I am. Why do you keep meddling in my business? What is it to you if I'm getting married? Just picked up some garbage, got tired of it, and now you're eyeing the people around me. Ji Shitong looked at her pitifully, her eyes welling up with fake tears. Zhining, I know you're angry, but no matter how upset you are, you shouldn't insult me and Jingxing like this. I know we made mistakes, but we truly love each other. Besides, you were the first one to register your marriage. We all have our faults, so why say such hurtful things? The mistress turned the tables, throwing all the dirt onto her. Jiang Zhining couldn't help but laugh in anger. What made you think you're in the right just because you have a thick skin? Was that what your mother taught you? Well, considering you learned from her, being a mistress runs in the family. Ji Shitong hated it when others mentioned her background, especially in front of Bo Jingxing. Her face turned green with rage. Jiang Zhining. What nonsense are you talking about? She raised her hand, attempting to slap Jiang Zhining. Before her hand could touch her, Jiang Zhining grabbed her wrist, and with a swift motion, slapped her back. Since your mother didn't teach you, let me teach you what happens to mistresses. R. Ji Shitong's face was slapped so hard it turned, causing her to scream in pain, her eyes red as she glared at Bo Jingxing. But Bo Jingxing didn't even look at her. He was glaring at Jiang Zhining with fury. Did you register your marriage? He had pursued her for so long, never even able to hold her hand, and now someone had swooped in and taken her from him. Jiang Zhining couldn't be bothered with the two mad people. Her gaze grew colder, and her voice turned as cold as ice. Mr. Bo, are we that familiar? What do you think you are, spying on my private affairs? I have something else to do, so I'll take my leave. With that, she shook off Ji Shitong's arm and turned to leave. Jiang Zhining. Bo Jingxing stepped forward, trying to grab her, but Ji Shitong clung to his arm tightly. He turned his head, his face twisted with rage, eyes filled with immense anger. Ji Shitong flinched at his gaze but still managed to maintain a forced smile, stepping forward gently to adjust his collar. Brother Jingxing, calm down. Don't forget why we're here today. There are photographers and videographers present. Don't make a scene. Her soft words helped bring Bo Jingxing back to his senses. When he turned around, he noticed that the photographers and videographers had already started taking pictures. Bo Jingxing's cold expression softened. He smiled gently at Ji Shitong. Sorry, I overreacted. Let us go. Millimeter. Ji Shatong smiled sweetly, but inside, she was seething. That bitch, Jiang Zhining, not only came here to seduce brother Jingxing, but also insulted her right in front of him. For so long, she had lived in Jiang Zhining's shadow, but now the Jiang family was on the brink of bankruptcy. She wanted to see how Jiang Zhining would manage to maintain her position as the top socialite in Ningxin once the Jiang family was gone. Chapter 3, You are my wife, taking care of you is my duty. Jiang Zhining stepped out of the Civil Affairs Bureau and immediately felt the air was much fresher. She stood at the entrance for a while, only to realize she had forgotten to tell Bo Hanyang. Worried that he might be anxious about not finding her, she was about to turn back when she saw Bo Hanyang, controlling his wheelchair towards her. Feeling guilty, she quickly walked toward him. Sorry, I just went out for some fresh air and forgot to tell you. Bo Hanyang's gaze landed on her palm, his brow slightly furrowing. What happened to your hand? What? Jiang Zhining looked down and realized her palm was bright red. She had first slapped Bo Jingxing and then slapped Ji Shatong, which had left her hand swollen, showing how hard she had hit them earlier. A flash of disgust crossed her bright eyes. She didn't want to mention those two revolting people again. She hid her hand behind her back, offering a casual excuse. It's nothing. Let us go back to the hospital. She naturally moved forward to push Bo Hanyang's wheelchair. Bo Hanyang's eyes lingered on her for 2 seconds before he said indifferently, I can manage on my own. Jiang Zhining thought it was just his pride and didn't argue, instead pulling out her phone to hail a cab. Jiang's company had experienced a cash flow crisis, and with her mother's severe illness, the medical bills were draining her finances. To cut costs, except for the bodyguard who stayed at the hospital to protect her mother, the driver and servants had all been dismissed. Now, whenever Jiang Zhining went anywhere, she mostly took a cab. But always taking taxis wasn't ideal, and with Bo Hanyang around, Jiang Zhining figured it was time to buy a car. She needed something spacious, comfortable, something that would be convenient for Bo Hanyang to sit in. It would still take a while for the ride share to arrive, so the two of them stood at the entrance waiting. Inside the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ji Shatong happened to glance out the window and saw Jiang Zhining still there, her brows slightly furrowing. Just as she was about to figure out a way to get rid of her, she saw Jiang Zhining lean over, bending slightly as she approached the man in the wheelchair. They were very close, and it looked like they were kissing. Ji Shatong's eyes widened in shock. She immediately took out her phone and started taking pictures. After snapping several photos, she quickly looked at Bo Jingxing, who was still on the phone, and secretly sent a message to the photographer. This time, she was determined to make sure Jiang Zhining would fall into a deep pit from which she could never recover. As she watched Jiang Zhining, a vicious glint flashed in her eyes. Just then, the man in the wheelchair suddenly looked up in her direction. Even from a distance, Ji Shatong could hardly make out his facial features, but a chill ran down her spine, as if the fiercest beast had locked its eyes on her. She hurriedly averted her gaze, breaking out in a cold sweat. Bo Hanyang, what are you looking at? Jiang Zhining dropped the leaf in her hand and followed Bo Hanyang's gaze, but saw nothing. The car is here. Bo Hanyang turned his gaze away, lowered his eyes, hiding the coldness in them. Thinking about Bo Jingxing and Ji Shatong inside, Jiang Zhining couldn't wait to leave. She nodded and started pushing Bo Hanyang towards the car. The driver saw the wheelchair and immediately got out to help. Jiang Zhining waved her hand to refuse the driver's help. No need, I can do it. Thank you. She bent down and, to the driver's shock, gently picked Bo Hanyang up and placed him in the seat. How's that? Is it all right? She quickly fastened his seatbelt and looked at him. It wasn't until she looked up that she realized how close they were. Bo Hanyang's handsome face was so close to her that she could almost see every detail of it. He was not only incredibly good-looking but also radiated an intimidating aura, leaving Jiang Zhining momentarily stunned. Her wide, alluring eyes blinked, her breath unconsciously calming down. Bo Hanyang met her bright eyes, seeing his reflection in them. He paused for a moment. Not enough yet. His voice was clear, slightly hoarse. Jiang Zhining snapped out of it and felt her ears flush. She composed herself, stepped back, and lightly tugged a lock of hair behind her ear, smiling brightly. How could I ever get enough of such a handsome man? After teasing him, Jiang Zhining, worried that he might devour her alive with his gaze, quickly turned to the side, pretending to look out the window, trying to act as if nothing had happened. The driver, who had placed the wheelchair in the car, didn't he notice the growing tension inside? He glanced at Jiang Zhining through the rearview mirror and couldn't help but compliment her. "You have a lot of strength. You look so small and delicate, but I never would have guessed you could. Just naturally strong." Jiang Zhining interrupted the driver, glancing at Bo Hanyang. Though the driver was just an ordinary person, everyone had their pride. She figured he wouldn't want his physical condition to be discussed. She thought Bo Hanyang might be angry, which is why she spoke up. But to her surprise, Bo Hanyang maintained his usual cold demeanor, with no change in his expression. Jiang Zhining raised an eyebrow, admiring his composure even more. Coincidentally, both Bo Hanyang and Bo Jingxing shared the same surname. She wondered if that meant anything. Thinking of Bo Jingxing, Jiang Zhining furrowed her brows, shaking off the thought. "Stop the car." Both the driver and Jiang Zhining were stunned. She glanced outside and realized they were neither at the hospital nor the apartment complex. She looked at Bo Hanyang in confusion. "What's going on?" Bo Hanyang's expression remained indifferent as his gaze fell on her red, swollen palm. "Your hand needs medicine." His tone was commanding and assertive, offering no room for refusal. Jiang Zhining paused for a moment and then realized the car had stopped in front of a pharmacy. She had no choice but to get out and buy some ointment. Her skin was always delicate, and even small injuries would look worse than they were. Before the Jiang family's crisis, any injury she had would attract attention from her whole family. Her mother would carefully apply ointment while her father would buy her gifts to cheer her up, worried that she might shed a single tear. But now, with the family in turmoil, she hadn't felt that kind of concern in a long time. To her surprise, she felt that same care from a man she had only known for a day. She held the ointment and looked down, hiding her reddened eyes, smiling as she showed it to Bo Hanyang. "All done. Can we go back to the hospital now?" Before she could finish, the ointment was taken from her hand and into his. Jiang Zhining froze. Bo Hanyang naturally opened the instruction manual and quickly scanned it. "Extend your hand." Seeing that he was about to apply the ointment for her, Jiang Zhining was taken aback and instinctively refused. "No, I can do it myself." Bo Hanyang frowned, staring at her without a word. Despite his neutral expression, Jiang Zhining found herself obediently extending her hand. When the cold ointment touched her skin, she realized what was happening. Her ears turned bright red, and she quickly tried to withdraw her hand. This was the first time a man, other than her father, had applied medicine to her. Jiang Zhining felt his hand on hers was burning, and she was overwhelmed with warmth. Her heart started racing, and her breath unconsciously slowed. Afraid that he might hear her erratic heartbeat, she instinctively relaxed her breathing, placing her other hand quietly on her knee, trying to appear as calm as possible. She just hoped the moment would pass quickly. Fortunately, Bo Hanyang only applied the ointment without blowing on it like her mother used to do. His actions were efficient, almost like a nurse at a hospital. Jiang Zhining let out a soft sigh of relief. Once the ointment was applied, she finally relaxed and didn't notice how naturally Bo Hanyang had placed the ointment back into his pocket. She turned her head to look out the window, quietly thanking him. "Thank you." Bo Hanyang frowned. Wasn't it natural for a husband to take care of his wife? Did she need to be so polite? Moreover, this girl had even saved his life. It was just applying some ointment. Did she need to react like that? Jiang Zhining had only intended to thank him, never expecting an answer. However, to her surprise, he responded, "It's the least I can do." "The least I can do?" Jiang Zhining blinked, confused, and turned to look at him. Bo Hanyang, noticing her confusion, rarely spoke more than usual. "You are my wife. Taking care of you is my duty." Chapter 4, Third Master, have you got the marriage certificate? Jiang Zhining's face suddenly turned red. He said it so seriously, as if they were really getting married because they loved each other. She opened her mouth to retort, but couldn't find the right words for a moment, and the driver was there. To avoid making things worse, Jiang Zhining simply turned his head and looked out the window. The car quickly arrived at the hospital. She opened the door and got out. The driver had already taken out a wheelchair. Jiang Zhining turned around and saw the man sitting in the back seat, waiting for her to hug him. She inexplicably thought of the children waiting to be picked up by their parents at the kindergarten gate. I couldn't help laughing. Seeing the sparkling smile in her peach blossom eyes, the man narrowed his eyes slightly. What is this girl so happy about? Jiang Zhining naturally didn't answer him and pushed the man back to the ward. It happened that the doctor came to make rounds and found that Jiang Zhining had taken the patient out. He immediately caught Jiang Zhining and gave her a lecture. How can you be a wife like this? Your husband was just rescued last night, and his legs were broken. How dare you take him out? What if something really happens? You look smart, how could you do such a stupid thing? Jiang Zhining originally wanted to refute the title of doctor, but then she thought of the marriage certificate that was still warm in her pocket. In the end, I said nothing and just listened to the doctor's scolding. Bo Hanyang looked at the well-behaved Jiang Zhining leisurely, a smile flashing across his long eyes. After the doctor left, Jiang Zhining breathed a sigh of relief and sat down beside the bed. Bo Hanyang, what kind of nurse do you like? I'll hire one for you, and he will be able to take better care of you. My mother was also hospitalized, and Jiang Zhining was unable to take care of 2 patients alone. Although she and Bo Hanyang got married, they were still strangers. It's not very convenient to go to the bathroom, take a shower, etc. No need. Bo Hanyang pursed his lips lightly, his cold and sharp eyes flashing with a sharp edge. Now that the goal has been achieved, are you going to cross the river and destroy the bridge? The girl is quite brave. Jiang Zhining never expected the man to refuse and was stunned for a moment. She looked at the man blankly, not understanding why he refused, and even more confused as to why he looked as if he was angry. Did he think that she was going to be a hands-off boss and leave him to the caregiver? Thinking of this, Jiang Zhining took the initiative to explain, "Don't worry, since we have already obtained the marriage certificate, I will definitely be responsible for you. However, my mother is also hospitalized in this hospital, and I am worried that I may not be able to take care of her alone, so I want to hire a nurse to take better care of you and will not abandon you." She explained very sincerely, and Bo Hanyang glanced at her, and the coldness in his body eased a lot. I'm not used to the closeness of strangers. Then, can you contact your family and ask them to come over? Family? Bo Hanyang's dark eyes suddenly darkened, and a hint of hostility appeared in his deep eyes. He thought that after coming to Ningchen, the people in his family would be more restrained. Unexpectedly, his hand was so long. He wanted him to die in Ningchen. Seeing that he didn't answer, Jiang Zhining had some guesses in her mind. I'm just suggesting this. If it's inconvenient, forget it. Seeing that Bo Hanyang didn't say anything, Jiang Zhining took the initiative to help. However, she did not give up the idea of finding a caregiver for Bo Hanyang. Although she and Bo Hanyang have obtained their marriage certificate, it was only because of the will and they will be divorced soon. By then, Bo Hanyang will still need someone to take care of him. Thinking of divorce, Jiang Zhining raised her eyes and looked at Bo Hanyang. By the way, let's apply for a divorce online now. There is still a 30-day cooling-off period. If we apply now, we can get a divorce after 30 days, so as not to waste your time. As she spoke, she took out her phone and started searching for the divorce process. Seeing Jiang Zhining's impatient look, Bo Hanyang's dark eyes turned completely cold. She even boasted in the bar that she wanted to marry him. As a result, she couldn't wait to get a divorce after marrying him. Or is this girl just testing him? Bo Hanyang's lips curled up into a cold smile, and Ling Jun's face exuded a hint of coldness. As soon as I woke up, you used your life-saving grace to ask me to marry you. Now that I just got the marriage certificate, you want a divorce? Are you kidding me, or do you think I'm a cripple and easy to bully? The man, contrary to his usual behavior, made a long list of accusations, which made Jiang Zhining feel ashamed, but she still felt something was strange. It was indeed a bit too much for her to ask the man to marry her in exchange for saving her life. But the man also agreed. She didn't force anyone, so why did you raise it to a moral level and say she was bullying a disabled person? Jiang Zhining felt ashamed and wronged for a moment. You were the one who agreed to it, how come I am the one bullying you? Her voice softened, revealing a sense of grievance. Bo Hanyang's eyes moved slightly, and he inexplicably felt like he was bullying a child. He stared at her for a long time, then opened his lips and said, "Don't be so anxious. At least we have to wait until the news gets back to the capital to see how those people react." Besides, he also wanted to see whether this girl was sent from there. Since Bo Hanyang is not in a hurry, Jiang Zhining is naturally not in a hurry either. Just in case, she originally planned to apply after the will issue was settled. Just as I was about to speak, my cell phone suddenly rang. When Jiang Zhining saw that it was Uncle Ju, his expression changed slightly and he went to the balcony with his cell phone. Uncle Ju, marriage certificate. Miss, where are you? Hearing that Uncle Ju's voice was not right, Jiang Zhining frowned slightly. What happened? Well, miss, you should check your phone. There's a lot of noise online right now. If it continues like this, even if you inherit the company, I'm afraid the board of directors will make trouble. And it will have a big impact on the company's stock price. Uncle Ju, don't worry, I'll go take a look right away. Inadvertently seeing the reporters rushing in at the hospital entrance, Jiang Zhining frowned and opened his phone. According to relevant media reports, Jiang Zhining, the only daughter of the chairman of the Jiang Group, whose capital chain broke down recently, has a chaotic private life. She is not satisfied with her fiancé Bo Jingxing, the president of the Sunrise Group, and her intimate photos with multiple men have been exposed. There are also reports that Jiang Zhining has cheated on her husband a long time ago, and secretly got a marriage certificate with a strange man in the morning. Jiang Zhining's pupils shrank when he heard the news. She put away her phone, walked quickly to the bedside, picked up Bo Hanyang and placed him on the wheelchair, then pulled a blanket over his legs. Fortunately, there was nothing in the ward, so Jiang Zhining pushed Bo Hanyang out quickly. I'm sorry, we need to transfer to another hospital. If you feel uncomfortable, please let me know. Bo Hanyang cooperated with Jiang Zhining's actions very well, frowned and asked, what happened? As soon as I asked, my phone vibrated twice and a message came in. Third Master, have you received the certificate? Chapter 5 Divorce immediately. Bo Hanyang's brows tightened, and his cold black eyes suddenly became sharp. He put on his Bluetooth headset and turned on his phone. After seeing the news, Leng Jun's face was filled with a chill. Jiang Zhining pushed Bo Hanyang and walked quickly towards the special passage. She was glad that this was a hospital invested by the Jiang family. She knew the layout of the hospital very well. Otherwise, I would probably be trapped in the ward and be questioned aggressively by those reporters. Fortunately, Jiang's mother had arranged bodyguards to protect her, so those reporters couldn't get close to her at all. The only problem now is which hospital to transfer Bo Hanyang to so that he will not be harassed by reporters. Jiang Zhining fastened her seat belt, feeling a little worried. The Luhu garden where the Jiang family lives is quite nice and very confidential. But her grandfather still lives in the villa, and he dislikes her the most. Now that such news has broken out, if she takes Bo Hanyang back with her, she would be walking into a tiger's mouth. Apart from this, the only place left was the house she had rented before, but that house only had one bedroom, which was far too small for both her and Bo Hanyang. Bo Hanyang should have a place to live. Thinking of this, Jiang Zhining looked at Bo Hanyang expectantly. Do you have a house in Ningchen? Bo Hanyang suddenly raised his eyes, and his hawk-like eyes looked straight into Jiang Zhining's eyes. What? She finally couldn't hide her true colors. Was she trying to take this opportunity to move into his house? That's nice to think about. Bo Hanyang retracted his gaze and said nonchalantly, no. What about the rented place? You have to sleep at night. Jiang Zhining did not give up and still had hope. Bo Hanyang glanced at her and said in a cold voice, we rent together. 10 people in 5 rooms. Jiang Zhining, okay. Although she had known for a long time that she probably couldn't count on Bo Hanyang, Jiang Zhining was still a little disappointed when she heard such an answer. She sighed and made a decision. It seems that I can only go to my place first. My room is not big, only. Before she could finish, Bo Hanyang had already started giving orders to the driver. Drive. Half an hour later, at Wutong Cottage. Jiang Zhining was still wondering how she would sleep at night with only one bed. Bo Hanyang is a patient now, and his leg is injured, so he must sleep in bed. She just slept on the sofa for the time being. Don't you have your key? Bo Hanyang frowned and asked when he saw her standing at the door without opening it. Could it be that this woman is still trying to find out where he lives in Ningchen? Jiang Zhining came to her senses, took out the key from her bag and opened the door. No, I was just thinking about how to sleep at night. As she spoke, she pushed Bo Hanyang into the door. Bo Hanyang didn't understand what she meant at first, but when he entered the room and saw the big bed connected to the living room, Leng Jun's face suddenly turned cold. A bed. This girl must have done this on purpose. This plan failed, and now you're planning to climb into his bed. Jiang Zhining had no idea what Bo Hanyang was thinking of her. She casually put the keys on the tray and changed into her slippers before she remembered that there were no men's products at home. I also have to go to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities for the man. Just as she was about to ask Bo Hanyang, the cell phone in her bag suddenly rang. Seeing the number above, Jiang Zhining's face suddenly changed and he answered the call. Mother. Come see me right now. Before she could speak, the person on the other end hung up the phone. Judging from the tone of my mother's voice just now, she may have seen the news and knew that she had obtained the marriage certificate. Thinking of her mother's increasingly worse temper recently, Jiang Zhining sighed. Looking up and meeting Bo Hanyan's cold black eyes, she forced a smile. Sorry, I have something urgent to do. Can you stay home alone for now? If you're hungry, there's food in the fridge. Feel free to contact me if you need anything. As he spoke, Jiang Zhi wrote down the phone number on a piece of paper and placed it on the table. Bo Hanyang responded indifferently, and no emotion could be seen on Ling Jun's face. Jiang Zhining didn't care about all this, changed her shoes and hurried to the hospital. Bo Hanyang looked at her hurriedly leaving back, and his dark eyes darkened little by little. The phone on his lap vibrated again, and he answered the call with a sullen face. Third master, it's settled. Bo Jingxing is currently busy with the land issue in the western suburbs, so he definitely won't have time to get the marriage certificate in the near future. In addition, the person who leaked the news was Ji Shitong from the Ji family, and all the footage was taken by the photographers she brought with her. In addition, she also hired a water army company to throw all the dirty water on you and Miss Jiang, proving that Miss Jiang cheated on you, and that you're little. The person on the other side paused, then continued cautiously, public opinion has not yet uncovered your identity. Do you need to deal with it? Show the evidence of Ji Shitong and Bo Jingxing's cheating. Don't deal with the others. Tell the people at home about this. I want to see who was involved in my car accident. The Bo family is a century-old family, and Bo Hanyang is the son of Mr. Bo who came of age in his old age. When he was born, his brother's son was already several years old. Old Master Bo had doted on him since he was a child. In addition, he was very talented. Before he even reached adulthood, Old Master Bo intended to make him the heir of the Bo family. Naturally, he became the target of public criticism. Just a few days after he arrived in Ningchen, someone tampered with his car and he got into an accident. If it weren't for the girl from the Jiang family, his body would probably be cold by now. Third master, what about your legs? Bo Hanyan's expression was calm as he gave a cold order, I know my body well. Bring doctor or to see me. Hospital. Bang. As Jiang Zhining just walked to the bedside, she was greeted by a hard slap from Jiang's mother. Is what the news said true? Not only did you cheat on your partner, but you also got a marriage certificate. Mother Jiang's voice was sharp, and her eyes were full of anger and disappointment as she looked at Jiang Zhining. Jiang Zhining licked the blood from the corner of her mouth and patiently explained, Mom, don't be angry, I did this for. Seeing that Jiang Zhining did not deny it, Jiang's mother became more and more agitated, and her voice became extremely shrill. Divorce. No matter who the other person is, if you still recognize me as your mother, divorce him immediately. I can't afford to lose this person. Jiang Zhining thought her mother would be angry when she found out, but she really didn't expect that her mother would actually believe that she had cheated and that it was her fault. Obviously, she wasn't the one who did something wrong. Jiang Zhining felt very aggrieved. Mom, calm down and listen to me first. It's become such a big fuss, the whole world knows about it, how can I calm down? Xiao Ning, how could you do such a thing? Mom knows that you may not like Jingxing that much, but you shouldn't do this. You have brought shame to the whole family. Your father and I hired the best teachers to teach you since you were a child, is that so that you can do such a thing? Mother Jiang was so angry that she was shaking all over. She grabbed Jiang Zhining's hand and said, Xiao Ning, you have always listened to me since you were a child. Just listen to me and divorce that man. Will I hurt you? I am doing this for your own good. Chapter 6 That's my person. Why doesn't Mom believe her? Jiang Zhining could no longer bear it and retorted, Mom, I didn't cheat. It was Bo Jingxing and Ji Shitong who cheated. They must have released that news to throw dirty water on me. When Jiang's mother heard this, she remained unmoved. Xiao Ning, the fact is that you got the marriage certificate before Bo Jingxing. Didn't anything happen between you and that man before you got the marriage certificate? No. Jiang Zhining answered firmly, Mom, don't worry, I will never do anything unfaithful. The reason I got married to him was to inherit Dad's shares and to protect Dad's hard work. Mother Jiang frowned and was not moved by Jiang Zhining's words. Your grandfather is in charge of the company's affairs, and at worst, you still have your uncle. Don't do this kind of thing for the company. The most important thing for a girl is her reputation, and marriage is a lifelong event. How can you just deal with it so casually? Just listen to your mother and divorce that man immediately. Explain it to Jingxing. Jingxing likes you so much, he will definitely forgive you. Although the Jiang family is in trouble now and is not as good as before, Jingxing has promised me that he will never abandon you. You can still marry into the Bo family and become the eldest lady of the Bo family, and you can still live a carefree life. Moreover, for your sake, Jingxing will definitely help the company through the difficulties. Xiao Ning, just listen to your mother, R. Jiang Zhining looked at Jiang's mother in astonishment, with a pain in her heart. So this is what her mother actually thought, and she even asked her to apologize to Bo Jingxing? Why? Even if he wanted to apologize, it should be Bo Jingxing who knelt down and apologized to her. Even so, she would not forgive Bo Jingxing's cheating. Jiang's mother refused to listen, so Jiang Zhining stopped insisting and said calmly, I must inherit Dad's shares. I will never let anyone destroy the company that Dad has worked so hard for. Mom, you are tired today too. I will come to see you another day. After saying that, she turned and left. This was the first time that Jiang Zhining disobeyed Jiang's mother's words and showed no remorse. Jiang's mother was so angry that she grabbed the cup next to her and threw it away. Bang! The crisp sound of the glass hitting the wall was accompanied by Jiang's mother's angry words. If you walk out of this door today, don't call me mom anymore. Jiang Zhining paused slightly, then walked away resolutely. After leaving the ward, huge tears rolled down my face. Since her father passed away, her mother's temper has become worse and worse, even weird. If Jiang Zhining doesn't get her way, she will beat and scold him. Now, she was asked to apologize to Bo Jingxing. Obviously, it wasn't like this when my father was still alive. Jiang Zhining leaned against the wall, raised her head, and closed her eyes deeply. A minute later, she wiped away her tears, and again told the bodyguard to keep an eye on Jiang's mother and not allow any reporters to approach, then she went downstairs. While walking, I called Uncle Ju. Uncle Ju, I have some evidence here. Please take a look at it and send a lawyer's letter directly to all the marketing accounts involved, especially the media that first spread the news. For anyone who spreads my real information online, send the lawyer's letter to the company where they work. Okay, I'll deal with it right away. However, if that's all, those people on the internet probably won't believe it. After all, it's very popular now, and more people are getting involved. You still need to issue a statement to clarify. Uncle Ju was willing to believe her, but her mother didn't. Jiang Zhining's nose felt sour. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Jiang Zhining. Suddenly, a familiar and disgusting voice was heard. Jiang Zhining raised her eyes and saw Ji Shitong walking towards her. Jiang Zhining frowned. Uncle Ju, I have something to do here, so I'll hang up first. As soon as she hung up the phone, Ji Shitong walked in front of her. Bitch, do you think Jingxing will abandon me if you post those things on the internet? You're dreaming. Jiang Zhining was stunned. What was that thing posted online? Uncle Ju is so fast. She was just about to go and see what Ji Shitong was talking about, but Ji Shitong was unwilling to be ignored and her face turned blue with anger. Jingxing is with you only because of your family background. Do you really think he likes you? The person he truly loves is me. You don't know, he slept with me a year ago, you. Jiang Zhining looked at Ji Shitong with a sneer and interrupted her coldly. If you like telling others about sex so much, why don't you go act in a movie? Otherwise, it would be a waste of your good acting skills. Then, maybe your Jingxing will love you even more. Jiang Zhining. Ji Shitong's face looked extremely ugly. She raised her hand and wanted to hit Jiang Zhining, but was frightened by Jiang Zhining's cold eyes and dared not move. Jiang Zhining looked at her coldly, without a trace of warmth on her delicate and pretty face. It seems that I didn't hit you lightly this morning. How dare you, a mistress, speak so arrogantly in front of me? If she had known that Ji Shitong was so mean, she should have slapped Ji Shitong a few more times to teach Ji Shitong a good lesson. Ji Shitong looked extremely embarrassed, thinking of the phone call from her mother just now, saying that Madame Bo was very angry. She could only suppress her anger, soften her voice, and return to her usual gentle demeanor. Jiang Zhining, I'm kindly reminding you that it's best not to post any more nonsense online. Grandma Bo is already very angry. If you continue to post nonsense, do you think you can still live a good life? You have to think clearly. You are no longer the eldest daughter of the Jiang family. No one will protect you. Hearing this, Jiang Zhining felt more and more that something was wrong. If it was just a lawyer's letter, how could it possibly alarm Mrs. Bo? Unless someone released evidence that Bo Jingxing and Ji Shitong were having an affair, wealthy families care most about their face, let alone the Bo family. Jiang Zhining was not angry when someone did what she wanted to do first. Instead, she wanted to thank that person. Good people will have a peaceful life. Ji Shitong was ignored once again and could no longer suppress the anger in her heart. She raised her neck to assert her sovereignty. Jiang Zhining, don't forget, you've already got the marriage certificate, stop thinking about Jingxing, he's mine. Jiang Zhining's eyes flashed with coldness, TSK, look at the way he protects his food, even the stray dogs on the street would feel ashamed. Don't worry, I will never pick up the things thrown into the trash can, I find it disgusting. Hearing Jiang Zhining compare herself to a trash can once again, Ji Shitong's face darkened and she gritted her teeth in anger. She was about to make a sarcastic remark when she suddenly saw something. Her eyes suddenly turned red and she even shed 2 tears. I felt so sorry for her. Jiang Zhining watched Ji Shitong's live performance of Sichuan opera face changing with cold eyes. Before she could say anything, she heard Ji Shitong shouting behind her in a wrong tone, Brother Jingxing. Chapter 7 Has she been wronged? Jiang Zhining was so disgusted that she almost vomited her breakfast, even though she didn't eat any breakfast at all. Ji Shitong grabbed Bo Jingxing's arm as if to assert her sovereignty, and the villain made the first move to complain. Brother Jingxing, you heard it too. It would have been fine if she said that to me, but she actually said that to you. I heard that grandma was angry, so I wanted to ask Xiao Ning to stop posting random messages online. I didn't expect that Xiao Ning would actually say that. It's all my fault. The land auction in the western suburbs had already been a done deal, but something unexpected happened. After Bo Jingxing was called away from the Civil Affairs Bureau, he has been busy with the land matter. If Ji Shitong hadn't sent him the pregnancy test form, he would have had no time to come over. He only found out about the things on the internet while on the way. He is now the president of the company, and any negative news will affect the company's stock price. The most important thing is that the Bo family, who is far away in the capital, originally intended to move the Ningqing branch to the capital. However, the matter has not been actually implemented yet, and there can't be any mistakes, otherwise, he will become the sinner of the family. Thinking of this, Bo Jingxing looked at Jiang Zhining with a gloomy expression. Xiao Ning, don't be angry. I will have someone suppress the news online, and you should stop posting it recklessly online. If there is any misunderstanding, let's talk it out face to face. If you post it online, everyone will be embarrassed in the end. Jiang Zhining was so irritated by his shamelessness that she laughed at him. She said sarcastically, Mr. Bo, you shouldn't say this to me. Instead, you should educate the people around you about the law. You can go to jail for defamation. Upon hearing this, Bo Jingxing suddenly looked at Ji Shitong. Ji Shitong became anxious when she met Bo Jingxing's cold gaze. Jingxing, no, I didn't, it really wasn't me. Jiang Zhining coldly exposed her. What a coincidence, I just ran into you at the Civil Affairs Bureau, and right after that, you said I cheated on you on the trending search. Miss Ji really likes to make the first complaint as always. Bo Jingxing's face became colder and he pried Ji Shitong's hands apart. Ji Shitong was really anxious now. Tears rolled down her cheeks again. She spoke incoherently, no, Jingxing, she is the one who slandered me. I didn't. You have to believe me, I. Before she could finish her words, Ji Shitong's eyes rolled back and she fainted. Shitong. Bo Jingxing suddenly picked up Ji Shitong, Doctor. Jiang Zhining was too lazy to read on and was about to leave when she heard Bo Jingxing's anxious voice. Doctor, she's pregnant, some medicines may not work. Jiang Zhining paused. Ji Shitong is pregnant. Her phone suddenly vibrated, and seeing that it was an unfamiliar call, she hung up immediately. As soon as I hung up, the phone rang again. Jiang Zhining frowned slightly and hung up again. Just as she was about to block the call, the other party suddenly sent her a text message. I am Bo Hanyang. A cold banquet. Jiang Zhining was stunned for a second before she remembered that this was her husband whom she had forced to come in the morning. Jiang Zhining's face flushed when she thought about how she almost blocked his number. She quickly saved the number into her address book and wrote the 3 words Bo Hanyang on it in a serious manner. After saving the number, she called back. For the first time, she felt nervous, fearing that Bo Han would ask her why she hung up the phone. Fortunately, Bo Hanyang didn't seem to care about this matter. "You're not coming back yet." A man's cold and low voice came from the phone. Jiang Zhining's ears trembled, and her heart was touched by this magnetic and low voice. No one knows that she actually has a little bit of voice control. When I hear this voice now, I can't control my heartbeat. She couldn't help but curl her lips slightly. "I'll be right back." After getting the answer, the other party hung up the phone without saying anything else. It was very cold, a very masculine style. Jiang Zhining felt a little regretful. "I haven't heard enough yet." Wutong Cottage. Third Master, Miss Jiang went to the hospital under the Jiang group. She first went to see her mother, and then met Ji Shitong. The two had some disputes, and then Bo Jingxing came. There was nothing else. So far, Miss Jiang has not been found to have any contact with any suspicious persons. Bo Hanyan's dark eyes were gloomy, and he tapped his fingers on the armrest a few times. That girl isn't the type to suffer any loss. She sounded okay when she answered the phone just now, so she probably didn't suffer any injustice. Realizing what he was thinking, the man's narrow black eyes flashed with a hint of annoyance. It's none of his business whether that woman was wronged or not. What's more, that woman was most likely sent from there. Thinking of this, Bo Hanyan's deep black eyes gradually revealed a strong sense of hostility. Jiang Zhining had no idea that Bo Hanyang had sent someone to monitor her. She took a taxi and hurried home, completely forgetting about buying daily necessities for Bo Hanyang. It was only when I reached the door of my house that I suddenly remembered this matter. She patted her head and prepared to go home to see what Bo Hanyang wanted before going to buy it. As a result, when I pushed the door open, smelled the fragrance of the food, and saw the 3 delicious dishes and a soup on the table, I suddenly forgot everything and stood there with my eyes wide open. When Bo Hanyang heard the voice and looked up, he saw Jiang Zhining standing at the door in a daze with her big peach blossom eyes open. Kind of cute. For some reason, it reminded him of the little white cat he had raised for a short period of time when he was a child. A barely perceptible smile flashed across his dark eyes, and he habitually ordered, "Come here." Oh. Jiang Zhining came to her senses, changed her shoes, and quickly walked to the dining table and sat down. He looked at the steaming dishes on the table, and then at Bo Hanyang, who looked aloof and without any worldly airs, and he was still in a daze. "You did this? What happened to your face?" Jiang Zhining touched her face subconsciously, and her mother's hysterical voice seemed to ring in her ears again. Her eyes dimmed and she avoided looking at Bo Hanyang. "Nothing." Bo Hanyang noticed that something was wrong with her expression, so he didn't ask any more questions. He picked up his bowl and chopsticks and started eating. It was as if he was waiting for her to come back to have dinner together. Jiang Zhining suppressed the discomfort in her heart and took the initiative to break the awkwardness. "You called before, is there something?" Hearing this, Bo Hanyang looked at her and said in a light voice, "Aren't you hungry?" Jiang Zhining didn't feel hungry at first, but after he said that, she realized that she was very hungry, so she nodded obediently. "I'm hungry. I'm going to wash my hands first." After saying that, he fled into the bathroom. Bo Hanyang watched her hurried back, put down his chopsticks with a sullen face, and made a phone call. What's wrong with her face? The other party was stunned for 2 seconds, as if he just realized what he was asking, and hurriedly answered. Ms. Jiang's mother seemed to believe that Miss Jiang cheated, so she was very angry. Bo Hanyang frowned. Let the news of Ji Shitong's pregnancy spread. 10 minutes later, I want everyone in Ningxing to know who cheated. If you can't do it well, I'll ask everyone in the PR department to get out. After hanging up the phone, Bo Hanyang steered the wheelchair to the bathroom. Jiang Zhining looked carefully at her beaten face in the mirror. Although Jiang's mother was angry, she was weak after all, so she didn't have much strength, and the right side of her face was only slightly redder than the left, but Bo Hanyang could still notice it. The redness and swelling on his palm were also noticed by Bo Hanyang almost as soon as they met. This man's observation skills are so sharp. Is he really just an ordinary driver? For the first time, Jiang Zhining doubted the man's identity. Chapter 8, It's okay for her, but not for Bohanyang. After realizing what she was thinking, she cleared her mind of the chaotic thoughts and turned on the water valve. The cold water flowed through my fingers, and only then did I feel the cold water falling on something solid. Ever since her father's accident, she hadn't felt like there was someone waiting for her at home for dinner for a long time, which gave her an inexplicable sense of home. Especially, the man was obviously still sick, but he still cooked the meal himself. It was really unreal. Jiang Zhining splashed cold water on her face to make sure that this was not a dream, and a faint smile appeared on her brows. This fake marriage doesn't seem as bad as imagined. Jiang Zhining wiped her hands and opened the door. She was startled when she saw Bohanyang at the door. "Why are you here?" Bohanyang looked at her intently. The little girl was in a much better mood and didn't show any sign of loss just now. Jiang Zhining felt a little frightened by his gaze and stepped aside with a dry laugh. "You need to use the bathroom, go ahead." Bohanyang withdrew his gaze, controlled the wheelchair and turned away. Jiang Zhining looked at the man's inexplicable behavior, unable to guess what he was thinking, and sat down at the dining table. Bohanyang is a good cook, but she has no appetite and is worried that he will misunderstand that she doesn't like his cooking. She ate a few bites without any taste, her mind full of Jiang's mother's words asking her to divorce. "Otherwise, fill out the divorce application first." "What are you thinking about?" Her thoughts were interrupted by this low and cold voice. Jiang Zhining came back to her senses and suddenly met the man's deep dark eyes. Although there was no expression on the man's cold face, she felt pressured, as if her thoughts were all seen through and she felt like she had nowhere to hide. She swallowed and said softly, "Nothing." Bohanyang put down his chopsticks, his eyes full of meaning. "Is there something you want to say?" Jiang Zhining shook her head hurriedly. Bohanyang looked at her steadily for a long time, then picked up the bowl and chopsticks again and started eating. Jiang Zhining felt confused and a little ashamed. The man worked hard at home to cook and wait for her to come home for dinner, but she was thinking about divorcing the man again. Although getting the marriage certificate is a temporary solution for them, for some reason, men seem to be resistant to it. Could it be that he wants to rely on her? After dinner, Jiang Zhining took the initiative to clean up the dishes. After putting the dishes into the dishwasher, she looked at Bohanyang and said, "I'll go buy some groceries for you." "What do you need?" "Now." "Yeah." Jiang Zhining nodded. "I do have plenty of toothbrushes and toothpaste at home, but mainly your spare clothes and the like." "Good." Bohanyang replied and pushed the wheelchair out. Jiang Zhining was stunned for a moment, then chased after him, "Are you going too?" Bohanyang didn't answer, but maneuvered his wheelchair out without looking back. Jiang Zhining looked at his decisive attitude, and seeing the aura of having been in a superior position for a long time, she couldn't help but start to doubt him. Is he really just an ordinary driver? Because Bohanyang was in a wheelchair, Jiang Zhining had already placed an order for an online taxi while waiting for the elevator. Unexpectedly, the driver had some problems on the road, and they had to wait downstairs for more than 10 minutes before the car arrived. While waiting, many people looked at Bohanyang frequently. Most eyes were amazed at Bohanyang's handsome face, but when they saw that such a cold and handsome man was actually sitting in a wheelchair, their eyes turned into pity, and there were even many disdainful and gloating glances. All these made Jiang Zhining very uncomfortable, but Bohanyang acted as if he saw nothing, and his eyes didn't even waver once. Seeing him like this, Jiang Zhining felt even more distressed. As soon as he got in the car, Jiang Zhining couldn't help but pick up his phone and start looking at the car. "Let's buy a car, it will be much more convenient to travel." Hearing the word "we," Bohanyang raised his eyebrows slightly but said nothing. But when he saw Jiang Zhining struggling between the two cars, he said calmly, "I have a friend who knows cars." When Jiang Zhining heard this, her eyes lit up instantly. Yes, Bohanyang is a professional online car-hailing driver, so he must know a lot about cars. "Then I'll leave the car selection to you." Bohanyang lowered his eyes and looked into Jiang Zhining's sparkling eyes. He wanted to laugh for some reason, but he was usually indifferent and there was no change on his face. Jiang Zhining breathed a sigh of relief as he no longer had to look at a bunch of boring car data. Bohanyang saw her reaction and couldn't help but start to doubt again. Would they really send such a person? 20 minutes later, the car stopped in front of the shopping mall. Jiang Zhining pushed Bohanyang into the mall, looked around, and thought about what to buy first. "Zhining." A familiar voice came from behind. Jiang Zhining frowned instantly, pretending not to hear it, and pushed Bo Hanyang forward. Before she could take 2 steps, Ji Shitong had already walked over and stood in front of Jiang Zhining. The first thing Ji Shitong looked at was the man Jiang Zhining was pushing, and then she was completely stunned, staring at the man blankly. She originally thought that Bo Jingxing was already an extraordinary man, but when she really met this man, she realized that there are always people better than you. The man's handsome face was more than 1 level higher than Bo Jingxing's, and most importantly, he had a cold and noble aura that made it difficult for people to guess his identity for a moment. Ji Shitong couldn't help but clench her hands, jealousy spreading rapidly in her chest. Why can Jiang Zhining always find such a good man? Fortunately, he is just a cripple. After all, he is no match for Bo Jingxing. Jiang Zhining looked at Ji Shitong's reaction coldly and curled his lips in mockery. Why are you eyeing my people again? Our Yang is just an ordinary online taxi driver. Miss Ji is not going to snatch him away too, right? When Ji Shitong heard that Bo Hanyang was just an ordinary online car-hailing driver, the surprise and jealousy in her eyes disappeared instantly. No matter how cool you look or how imposing you are, if you have no money and power you will be bullied by others. Ji Shitong felt much better and pretended to be gentle again. Just an ordinary online taxi driver. Zhining, why did you choose such a person? No wonder Auntie is angry. No matter what, you have to find someone with a high degree. How can you find someone who drives a car? Why is he still sitting in a wheelchair? Is he still disabled? This. Auntie will definitely not agree. When Jiang Zhining heard Ji Shitong insulting Bo Hanyang, his eyes were instantly filled with coldness. No matter how ordinary Bo Hanyang is, he is her husband now. Ji Shitong said she can do it, but said Bo Hanyang can't. What's wrong with the driver? At least he has a brain. Some people have healthy bodies, but they still have to pick up other people's trash. Keep your mouth clean. If you keep being rude to my husband, I'll clean your mouth for you. Ji Shitong was frightened by the coldness in Jiang Zhining's eyes and instinctively took 2 steps back. She was about to say something, but suddenly her eyes lit up. Chapter 9. Who do you think you are, talking to my wife like that? Jingxing, here. Footsteps sounded behind him, and Jiang Zhining lost all his patience. Ji Shitong excitedly took Bo Jingxing's arm and introduced him warmly. Jingxing, it's such a coincidence that we meet Zhining again, and her husband. The word, husband, hurt Bo Jingxing deeply. His eyes narrowed suddenly and he looked straight at Bo Hanyang who was sitting in the wheelchair. Seeing that the man was indeed sitting in a wheelchair and looked like a disabled person, his narrowed eyes slowly relaxed and his gaze fell on Jiang Zhining's hand on the wheelchair. Zhining, Auntie called me. You shouldn't be angry with her. She's not feeling well. Mr. Bo, please don't worry about my mother and I. My husband and I have something else to do, so I'm sorry I can't keep you company. Jiang Zhining said coldly, pushing Bo Hanyang and leaving. But Ji Shitong stood in front of Bo Hanyang and invited him enthusiastically. Zhining, we are all friends, don't be so distant. Jingxing and I are going to pick out wedding rings, and you probably haven't bought one yet, so we can go take a look together and give each other some advice. Jiang Zhining watched Ji Shitong's acting with cold eyes. What brand of garbage bag do you use to fill it like this? Ji Shitong was speechless and looked at Bo Jingxing aggrievedly. After all, Ji Shitong was pregnant, and her emotions had a great impact on the child. Bo Jingxing immediately frowned and looked at Jiang Zhining. If you don't want to go, then don't go. There's no need for you to be so weird. Shitong is pregnant now and can't stand any stimulation. Jiang Zhining was once again shocked at how thick-skinned Bo Jingxing was and sneered. Of course, as long as she is willing to call me ancestor, I will do my best to coax this youngster. Bo Jingxing originally thought that Jiang Zhining would give him some face, but he was completely humiliated by her and immediately became furious. Jiang Zhining, how did you become like this? Who do you think you are, speaking to my wife like that? The man had a gloomy face and a cold, fierce voice that made people shudder. Bo Jingxing was stunned by the man's aura for a moment. Even Ji Shitong couldn't help but hide behind Bo Jingxing and dared not speak again. Jiang Zhining was stunned for a moment. It was the first time she felt the feeling of being protected by a man, and her ears turned slightly red. Her fingers were touched lightly and she felt a cool sensation. Jiang Zhining subconsciously wanted to withdraw her hand, but it was held tightly. She lowered her eyes and realized that the cold touch was Bohanyan's hand. Her hand was held tightly in the man's palm. She opened her eyes wide and her heartbeat quickened for a moment. Bohanyan couldn't see her blushing cheeks, and he casually rubbed the area where her ring finger was. There really should be a ring. After that, he steered the wheelchair forward. Ji Shatong subconsciously moved aside, and by the time she reacted, Bohanyan had already taken Jiang Zhining into a jewelry store nearby. Ji Shatong looked up at the name of the store, and a hint of malice flashed in her eyes. This is the most expensive jewelry store in the mall. Any small earring costs 6 figures. Jiang Zhining's disabled husband, who can't even drive a car now, probably can't even afford a display stand for the store, but he actually took Jiang Zhining to this store. Ignorance is truly bliss. Bo Jingxing also noticed the man entering the store. He frowned and looked at Ji Shatong. What does that man do? Even he was shocked by such powerful aura. Could it be some big boss? Jiang Zhining actually got married to a disabled useless guy. Ji Shatong finally felt the joy of stepping hard under her feet on Jiang Zhining. When she heard Bo Jingxing's question, she immediately answered. Zhining said that he was just an ordinary online car-hailing driver, but now he is disabled and may not be able to drive in the future. She chose such a husband, no wonder auntie called you and asked you to persuade her. When mentioning Yi Shulan, Ji Shatong clenched her hands in hatred. That bitch actually wanted Jingxing and Jiang Zhining to get married. What a dream! Brother Jingxing is hers and will only be hers. Bo Jingxing frowned. Is he really just a driver? It's absolutely true. Ji Shatong almost couldn't help laughing. If you don't believe it, you can ask someone to investigate. Bo Jingxing nodded, took Ji Shatong's hand and walked towards the jewelry store. Let's go buy a ring too. Ji Shatong looked at the two people's hands clasped together, and her heart was so sweet that bubbles seemed to burst out. This was the first time that Brother Jingxing took the initiative to hold her hand. After buying the wedding ring, she must go with Brother Jingxing to get the marriage certificate as soon as possible before she can feel at ease. The last time they got the marriage certificate, Brother Jingxing was called away temporarily. Fortunately, she was pregnant, so Brother Jingxing agreed to take her to choose a wedding ring. She originally thought Jingxing would be perfunctory, but unexpectedly, he not only took the initiative to hold her hand, but also took her to the most expensive jewelry store. She must pick out the most expensive jewelry in the store and give Jiang Zhining a good slap in the face. Jewelry store. Jiang Zhining didn't even look at the dazzling array of jewelry, and deliberately said loudly, "Husband, we already have a ring, there is no need to buy another one, we still have a lot of things to buy, and we will be too late later." When Bo Hanyang heard Jiang Zhining's words, a smile flashed in his eyes. Is this girl worried that he can't afford it and is deliberately giving him a way out? Zhining is right. Let's go buy the things we need first, so that we don't end up not having enough money to buy what we need. Ji Shatong took Bo Jingxing's arm and gently persuaded him, Zhining, it's okay not to have a wedding ring. You've already got the marriage certificate, so why bother about it? Besides, it's not convenient to wear a ring when you're taking care of a patient. It's better not to be stubborn. It's more important to save the money for auntie and your husband's medical treatment. His words were full of ridicule for Jiang Zhining and Bo Hanyang not being able to afford the rings. Jiang Zhining looked straight at Ji Shatong, raised his hand and pointed to the independent display cabinet standing under the spotlight in the center of the store, and smiled. I think Miss Ji and Mr. Bo should have enough budget. Miss Ji and Mr. Bo are so loving, I think only that ring can match your love. After that, she looked at the lady at the counter standing beside her and said, why don't you take out the ring and show it to Miss Ji? The others are not worthy of Miss Ji. Jiang Zhining likes to buy jewelry very much. Before the Jiang family went bankrupt, Jiang Zhining was a frequent customer of this jewelry store, so the lady at the counter was already used to her orders. Now hearing this familiar tone of command, he reflexively took out the ring in the middle of the display cabinet and handed it respectfully to Jiang Zhining. Ms. Jiang, please take a look. This ring is the most valuable item in our store. It was designed by a famous French designer and there is only one of its kind in the world. Jiang Zhining glanced at the long string of zeros on the price tag and nodded with satisfaction. As expected, the ring is worthy of being on the central display stand. It is also the most expensive in the entire store, costing a full 25 million. The meaning is also good, and it is very suitable for those two brainless guys. Well, it is indeed beautiful. Only this ring is worthy of Miss G. As she spoke, she raised her eyebrows and looked at the lady at the counter. What are you standing there for? Why don't you let Miss G try it on? Ji Shatong was originally very dissatisfied with the counter lady's behavior. Since it was for her to see, why should it be shown to Jiang Zhining first? When she put the ring on her hand, she was instantly captivated by the diamond as big as a pigeon egg. As expected, this ring is limited to only one piece in the world. It is so beautiful that it makes people fall in love with it. Bo Jingxing didn't know much about jewelry, but he knew Jiang Zhining very well. There is absolutely no way Jiang Zhining would really recommend a ring to Ji Shatong out of kindness. There must be some other reason. Bo Jingxing's eyes were deep as he asked the lady at the counter in an unobtrusive manner. How much is this ring? Chapter 10, What others have, you should also have. When the lady at the counter saw that Ji Shatong liked it and thought about the large commission she was about to get, her face turned red with excitement. Hearing this, he said very positively, 25 million, the size is exactly the same as this lady, it is simply tailor-made for this lady. You swipe the card now, and the lady can wear it directly now. When Bo Jingxing heard the price, his face instantly turned cold. Ji Shatong felt as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water on her, and her excitement instantly cooled down. This price is beyond my expectation. Jiang Zhining calmly looked at the two people who suddenly fell silent, and said with a smile, if Miss G and Mr. Bo think it's expensive, you should go buy what you need first, so that you don't end up not having enough money to buy what you need. Ms. G, it doesn't matter if you don't have a wedding ring. You're going to get the marriage certificate anyway, so why bother about it? Besides, if you're taking care of the child, you definitely can't wear a ring. It's better not to be so stubborn. Use the money to raise the child. After all, you can't let the child suffer, right? The words that she had just said were sent back to her intact. Ji Shatong felt as if Jiang Zhining had slapped her in the face, and her face was burning. She lowered her eyes and looked at the ring on her ring finger that was emitting bright light, and refused to take it off. Jiang Zhining was openly mocking them for being poor. Bo Jingxing's face was also very ugly. He couldn't say no to the purchase and was in a dilemma for a moment. He touched Ji Shatong inconspicuously, hoping that Ji Shatong would be sensible and take off the ring herself, rather than losing face for him. But Ji Shatong really likes this ring, and on the other hand, she is also competing with Jiang Zhining. Jiang Zhining couldn't afford the things in the store. If she also admitted that she couldn't afford it, then wouldn't she and Jiang Zhining be the same? No, she had to step hard on Jiang Zhining's face. Ji Shatong became ruthless and simply ignored Bo Jingxing's hint. Jiang Zhining noticed the little movements of the two and bent down to look at Bo Hanyang with amusement. Okay, enough of the show, let's go. Bo Hanyang still held her hand, stroking her ring finger with his thumb, and said in a light voice, no hurry. As soon as he finished speaking, 8 bodyguards in black clothes and wearing headsets suddenly rushed into the store, instantly attracting everyone's attention. The store manager was walking among the bodyguards, carrying a password box. When he saw Bo Hanyang, he was stunned and exclaimed in surprise, Bo. Bo Hanyang glanced at the store manager with his cold eyes. The store manager nodded slightly, shut up, and walked respectfully to Bo Hanyang. He smiled and handed over the password box. Mr. Bo, what you want is ready. Jiang Zhining came back to her senses after hearing this, and her first reaction was that the store manager had recognized the wrong person. Any plain ring in this store starts at $1 million. Even she can't afford it now, let alone Bo Hanyang, who is just an ordinary driver. She was about to open her mouth to remind the manager when Ji Shatong's surprised voice suddenly sounded from the side. Jingxing, you are so nice. You even prepared a surprise. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Ji Shatong glanced at Bo Jingxing coquettishly, then turned sideways to look at the store manager with a happy smile. Mr. Bo is here, you've got the wrong person. Bring it over quickly, I'm looking forward to it. As soon as he finished speaking, the temperature in the store suddenly dropped several degrees. Seeing Bo Hanyang's cold face, the store manager broke out in a cold sweat and said impatiently, don't take things that are not yours. When Mr. Bo came, I personally received him. How could I be wrong? Ji Shatong's smile froze on her face in an instant, and she was filled with disbelief. How could it be that disabled person who made the decision? Didn't Jiang Zhining say before that the disabled man was just an ordinary driver? Where did he get the money to customize high-end jewelry? Even the store manager comes to serve in person. Jiang Zhining was no less shocked than Ji Shitong. With this kind of service, the minimum value of the items in the safe will not be less than 50 million. She looked at Bohanyang worriedly. Where did you get the money? The coldness on Bohanyang's face faded slightly, and he squeezed her hand. See if you like it. The store manager hurriedly opened the safe, took out the exquisite jewelry box inside, and opened it carefully. As soon as the box was opened, everyone in the store was immediately attracted by the women's ring inlaid with a blue gemstone. It's so beautiful. As soon as this ring appeared, all the rings in the store instantly paled in comparison. Even the ring on Ji Shitong's hand was instantly outshined. Even Jiang Zhining, who had seen countless collections at various jewelry exhibitions, could not hide her amazement. The blue gem inlaid on the ring setting looks like flowing sea water, beautiful, calm and majestic. Looking closely, it seems somewhat familiar. Before Jiang Zhining could recall where she had seen this gem, Bohanyang had already picked up the ring and put it on her ring finger. When her fingertips touched the cold ring, Jiang Zhining came to her senses and suddenly curled up her fingers and refused to wear it. Her bright peach blossom eyes were full of worry, and she bent down and approached Bohanyang. No, I don't like wearing rings. Bohanyang said nothing and looked up at her. Although she showed no expression, Jiang Zhining once again felt a strong sense of oppression. She suppressed her urge to obey and patiently reasoned with Bohanyang. This ring must be very expensive. We can't use it. Bohanyang's eyes moved slightly, and he looked deeply at Jiang Zhining. The girl doesn't look like she's acting. Could it be that she was really worried about him, rather than playing hard to get? His eyes softened for a moment, and his voice was cold. What others have, you must also have. It was that overbearing tone again. Jiang Zhining had no choice but to stretch out her finger and watch Bohanyang put the ring on her finger bit by bit. Although the ring was cold, she felt as if it was scalded and her whole body was hot. Especially the size of the ring was just right, as if it had been professionally measured, and Jiang Zhining was feeling very confused. No idea when Bohanyang measured it, she didn't even notice it. Jiang Zhining's fingers were slender and white, and the blue gemstone ring looked so stunning on her hand that Bohanyang was reluctant to let go of her hand. Very beautiful. Knowing from the survey data that Jiang Zhining liked the color blue, he chose this blue gem, and it turned out to be very suitable. The man's voice was cold and his words of praise also sounded cold, but Jiang Zhining couldn't help but curl up her fingers. When the store manager heard Bohanyang's affirmation, the smile on his face became even bigger, enthusiastic and respectful. Is the size suitable? If not, we can help you adjust it on the spot. This blue gem was provided by Mr. Bo. If you don't like the style of the ring setting, you can also adjust it. We provide you with a lifetime ring setting replacement service. Jiang Zhining smiled slightly. No need, it's just right now. Ji Shitong's eyes were red with jealousy, but when she heard that the sapphire was provided by the disabled driver, her anger immediately subsided. What kind of valuable gems can that disabled driver bring out? She became proud again and said disdainfully, don't be so vain if you don't have money. Do you think that using a ring setting from a brand store can turn a fake gemstone into a real one? That's really cheap. Chapter 11. It's all your fault. Jiang Zhining was doubting the origin of the gem, but Ji Shitong's words instantly dispelled her doubts. That's right, Bohanyang is just a driver after all. How could he have tens of millions of gems? Without any burden in her heart, a relaxed and happy smile appeared on her face. So what if it's real? It's just a piece of stone. What's important is that this was given to me by a Yang. His kindness is priceless. Jiang Zhining looked at Bohanyang with a smile. I like this surprise very much, our Yang, thank you. Bohanyang's eyes moved slightly. The little girl had a bright smile and looked genuinely happy, and there was no sign of acting at all. Ji Shitong punched cotton and took her anger out on the store manager. Ningqing's top jewelry store actually made ring settings for fake gemstones and put on such a grand display. Are you trying to destroy your own reputation? As soon as the words fell, the entire jewelry store fell into silence. The bodyguards looked at each other and took fighting stances. Is this woman crazy? Are you going to ruin the show right in front of them? The store manager's face was terribly dark. Ms. Ji, our store never sells any fake jewelry, and we only provide customized services for jewelry worth tens of millions. If you doubt the credibility of our store, please provide evidence. Otherwise, our colleagues in the legal department will be happy to provide you with legal education. After hearing the words $1 million jewels, Ji Shitong's face changed. You mean, the sapphire is real? The real mermaid's tears, the top lot at Christie's last year, priced at 99.99 million. The store manager looked at Jiang Zhining with a smile on his face and said, "Thank you, Miss Jiang, for allowing me to appreciate it in my lifetime." Jiang Zhining was shocked by these words. After a brief shock, Ji Shitong was left with only anger and jealousy. It turned out to be the tears of a mermaid. She said, with Jiang Zhining's vision, how could she choose to marry an ordinary person? Moreover, this man's aura is countless times stronger than Bo Jingxing's, and she actually believed Jiang Zhining's lies before. Jiang Zhining, this bitch. Bitch. Bo Hanyang raised his eyes and glanced at the store manager with cold eyes. The store manager understood and looked at Ji Shitong coldly. A distinguished guest like Miss Ji would probably look down on our store. Xiaobai, take off the ring on Miss Ji's hand. The salesgirl didn't give Ji Shitong any time to react. She quickly took off the ring, wiped it carefully, and put it back into the display cabinet. Ji Shitong has always been very concerned about her reputation, but now she has lost all her dignity and was shaking with anger. Who said I don't like it? I. The store manager interrupted her directly. Please ask Miss Ji to leave. From now on, we will not do business with Miss Ji and Mr. Bo. Several bodyguards walked up to Ji Shitong and Bo Jingxing and said with a stern face, please come in. Bo Jingxing has always been treated with respect and has never been expelled from the hospital. But Ji Shitong was too embarrassed to do it and wanted to rush over and argue with the store manager. His face was gloomy, and he shouted in a low voice, "This is all your fault." Ji Shitong felt extremely aggrieved after hearing Bo Jingxing's yelling. Brother Jingxing, why are you so mean to me? Bo Jingxing ignored her and turned away. Ji Shitong looked at the row of bodyguards in front of her with stern faces, then looked at the store manager who was pouring tea for Jiang Zhining. She was so angry that her teeth were itching, but she had no choice but to chase after Bo Jingxing. As soon as Ji Shitong and Bo Jingxing left, the store instantly became quiet. Jiang Zhining touched the ring and finally recovered from her shock. No wonder she felt this sapphire was familiar, it turned out to be the mermaid's tear. She had always been interested in this gem and even went to the auction house last year. However, she remembered that the mermaid's tears were finally bought by a mysterious person, and the auction house did not disclose the other party's information. Could it be that person is Bo Hanyang? Thinking of this, Jiang Zhining asked in a low voice, "Did you take away the mermaid's tears?" Bo Hanyang raised his eyes to look at her, and said calmly, "Do I look rich?" Jiang Zhining really wanted to nod. But thinking of Bo Hanyang's ordinary car and the fact that 10 people shared the house, he hesitated again. But, if it wasn't Bo Hanyang who took it away, then where did he get the mermaid's tears from? As if he had seen through Jiang Zhining's thoughts, Bo Hanyang added calmly, "Someone else gave it to me." Jiang Zhining was skeptical and waited for the man to continue. Bo Hanyang obviously had no intention of talking further, and he stopped talking after he finished speaking. Jiang Zhining had no choice but to suppress her curiosity and reluctantly accepted the explanation. However, although the mermaid's tears were provided by Bo Hanyang, this store is after all the top jewelry store in Ningchen. The design fee and the customization fee for the ring setting both start from 1 million. Where did Bo Hanyang get so much money? She thought so and asked this question. Compensation for the car accident. What? Jiang Zhining was shocked. You used all the compensation money from the car accident to buy a ring. Could it be that this man had a brain injury in a car accident? The doctor didn't say there was any blood clot in the brain. Bo Hanyang nodded and looked at Jiang Zhining seriously. I am penniless now, and I will depend on you from now on. Jiang Zhining. Is he determined to rely on her for the rest of his life? After a long silence, Jiang Zhining leaned closer to Bo Hanyang and whispered, I am a super VIP of this store. There is an unconditional return service. Let's return the ring. This is several $1 million, and no one knows what will happen to Bo Hanyang's legs in the future, so there are many places to spend the money. How can you spend money on such a flashy thing? Jiang Zhining persuaded earnestly, 30 carats is really too big, and it's not convenient to wear it normally. Let's return the ring setting, okay? You keep the gem well, just in case it's useful in the future. Bo Hanyang's eyebrows twitched slightly, somewhat surprised by Jiang Zhining's reaction. Even the mermaid's tears couldn't move this little girl, so how many benefits were promised to her? Or maybe this girl wasn't sent from there. He remained unmoved. It suits you very well. The cold voice did not allow for any argument. He maneuvered the wheelchair directly out of the store. Jiang Zhining had no choice but to quickly add the store manager on WeChat and hurriedly followed him. If Bohanyan's explanation didn't make sense, she didn't believe the store manager's explanation wouldn't make sense either. Without Ji Shitong's interruption, the subsequent purchases went very smoothly. When Jiang Zhining and Bohanyang returned home, it was already completely dark. After changing her shoes, Jiang Zhining went straight to the closet. She was behaving strangely, and Bohanyang followed her in his wheelchair, just in time to see Jiang Zhining putting the ring into the safe. You want to put it away? Well, wealth should not be exposed. It is safer to keep such valuable jewelry away. Jiang Zhining carefully closed the door of the safe and decided to send a WeChat message to the store manager soon. It's better to quit early to avoid any accidents. Bohanyang didn't know that Jiang Zhining was still thinking about returning the ring. His eyes fell on Jiang Zhining's empty hands, feeling a little regretful. The little girl is glowing white, and the mermaid's tears look stunning on her hand. It really suits her very well. Jiang Zhining turned around and saw Bohanyang staring at her hands, and she curled her hands subconsciously. It's getting late, take a shower and go to bed, you need to rest. As soon as the words came out of her mouth, she felt so embarrassed that she wanted to bite off her tongue. Why did she say something else but take a bath? In Bohanyang's current condition, he should probably be able to wash himself. Her conflicted look was too obvious for Bohanyang to ignore, so he decided to tease her. Push me to the bathroom. Chapter 12. Who did she marry? Well. Jiang Zhining agreed subconsciously and pushed Bohanyang to the bathroom. I made up my mind that I must hire a nurse for Bohanyang tomorrow. Bohanyang sat calmly in the wheelchair, enjoying Jiang Zhining's care. His legs couldn't touch water, and if he wanted to take a shower he could only scrub his upper body. Jiang Zhining filled the bathtub with hot water, tested the water temperature, and hurried out. Just after taking a step, the man called me. Where you go? Could it be that this man still wants her help? Jiang Zhining didn't dare look at Bohanyang. She lowered her eyes and answered as naturally as possible, I'll wait for you outside. Call me anytime if you need anything. Her head almost dropped to the ground, and the tips of her ears between her hair were so red that they seemed to be dripping with blood. Bohanyan's cold gaze lingered on the tip of her ear for a few seconds, and his fingers moved slightly. The little girl looked so well behaved at the moment that he couldn't bear to bully her any further. Bohanyang didn't say anything, so Jiang Zhining assumed that he agreed. She blushed and hurried out of the bathroom. Soon, a faint sound of water was heard in the bathroom. Jiang Zhining finally breathed a sigh of relief and took out her cell phone to send a WeChat message to the store manager. Hello, I'm Jiang Zhining. Can I return the ring setting that Mr. Bo ordered? The store manager was looking at the account book for the day when he received the news, and was surprised and shocked. Just as Mr. San said, Miss Jiang really came to inquire about returning the goods. I'm sorry, Miss Jiang, this order from Mr. Bo was specially designed by our founder. It's so special that I can't return it. They even asked the founder to design it. How expensive must that be? Could it be that Bohanyan's brain was really damaged? I remember that your super VIP has an unconditional return service. I want to use this service, is that not possible? Perhaps seeing Jiang Zhining's determination to return the goods, the store manager called directly. Ms. Jiang, I'm really sorry. If it was another order, I could make special arrangements for you, but this ring setting is beyond my level. Even if I apply to my superiors for you, it won't be approved. The store manager had already said this, and Jiang Zhining knew that the ring setting really could not be returned. She sighed helplessly, can you please help me check the amount of this order? Of course, please wait a moment. Mr. Bo's order amount is shown as 3 million. 3 million in total. I remember that the design and production fees of your store's senior designers are more than this price, right? The store manager was stunned by Jiang Zhining's question. Fortunately, Mr. Bo had guessed that Miss Jiang would ask this question and gave the answer in advance. Otherwise she really couldn't answer it. Mr. Bo seems to know the founder of our brand, but I don't know the details. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Zhining fell into deep thought. First, he took out a priceless gem, and now he gets to know the founder of a top jewelry brand. Who did she marry? What are you thinking about? A man's cold voice was heard in the room, and Jiang Zhining suddenly came back to his senses. Bo Hanyang didn't know when he had finished taking a shower. His hair was a little messy and he looked a little warmer than his usual cold appearance. Only. Why didn't you change into your pajamas? Bo Hanyang's eyes swept across the packaging bag on the ground and he answered calmly. No. The clothes he wore were always washed after the tags were removed. Jiang Zhining choked and inexplicably saw her former self in Bo Hanyang. It's just that she grew up in the Jiang family and was spoiled by her family, so it's normal for her to be spoiled like this. Bo Hanyang is a driver, but he is so particular. Or is it that Bo Hanyang is not a driver at all? Thinking of this, Jiang Zhining took the initiative to ask about the man's job for the first time. Excuse me, what do you do? She looked at the man nervously. It would be best if Bo Hanyang was just an ordinary driver, otherwise, she would divorce him immediately. She is already overwhelmed by the many things going on now, and she doesn't want to offend any big shots. Bo Hanyang lowered his eyes slightly and looked at Jiang Zhining with his cold eyes. The little girl is quite alert. Haven't you seen it all before? Jiang Zhining carefully observed the man's expression and asked again, are you really the driver? A hint of interest flashed across Bo Hanyang's eyes. He is indeed a baby who has been spoiled since childhood. He is smart, but his mind is still too naive. However, he was driving a newly bought second-hand commercial vehicle that day, so it's no wonder that the little girl misunderstood. He said cryptically, with my legs now, I won't be able to drive anymore. The man lowered his eyes and his cold voice deepened. Although there was no expression on his face, Jiang Zhining inexplicably saw deep hurt and loss in the man. For some reason, her heart suddenly tightened, and she didn't want to see the man in such a depressed mood. You don't have to worry too much. Medicine is so advanced nowadays. There must be a way to heal your leg. After the public opinion dies down, we can go to a few more hospitals. There must be a way. Bo Hanyang looked at her silently, with a scrutinizing look in his eyes. Are you afraid that I will depend on you? Jiang Zhining choked. She really thought so, especially when she found out that the man actually used all the compensation money to customize the ring setting. But, I remembered Bo Hanyang's lost look before. She shook her head again, no, that's not what I meant. Bo Hanyang withdrew his gaze, his expression indifferent. It's normal for you to be afraid. No one wants to marry a disabled person. Besides, our marriage certificate is just a temporary solution. Everyone is profit-seeking. This is how the world is. Any feelings cannot defeat interests and power. Hearing this, Jiang Zhining couldn't help but think of what had happened during this period of time. As soon as the news of his father's death got out, the company's stock price fell instantly, the Jiang Group was in chaos, and several other companies in Ningxing wanted to get a piece of the pie. Grandpa and uncle no longer pretended and revealed their disgusting faces. Even her mother no longer treats her the same way as before. At the beginning, her thoughts were indeed the same as Bo Hanyang's. She felt that the world was terrible and full of dirty interests. But fortunately, her besties, her friends, those who truly love her, are still by her side. The world is not all darkness after all. Fearing that the man would fall into such an emotion, Jiang Zhining raised her little face and tried to comfort him earnestly. No, not everyone only cares about power and profit. In this world, there must be someone who truly likes you, loves you, and accompanies you to experience all the happiness and beauty. Actually, a lot of things have happened in my family recently, but I am living a good life now. Don't worry, life will definitely get better and better. Although I don't earn much now, I will try my best to support you, I won't let you starve or thirsty, and I will also try my best to treat your illness. Okay, blow dry your hair quickly to avoid catching a cold. I'm going to take a shower first. Jiang Zhining took out a hair dryer from the drawer and placed it on the table, then took her pajamas and went into the bathroom. Bo Hanyang was silent for a while, then raised his eyes to look at the closed bathroom door with deep eyes. Chapter 13 Sharing a Bed. Is this the reason why the second brother chose Jiang Zhining? Play the emotional card. Heir. In order to deal with him, my second brother really put a lot of effort into it. When Jiang Zhining came out of the shower, she saw Bo Hanyang half leaning against the head of the bed. The man was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses and was reading a book in his hands. He looked towards her when he heard the voice. His delicate facial features were handsome beyond compare, his aura was cold and arrogant, and his narrow and deep black eyes looked even deeper against the background of the lenses. The cold and sharp gaze fell precisely on Jiang Zhining. She couldn't help but be distracted by the man's handsome face for a moment, until she met his cold gaze. She said with fear and trepidation, do you understand? That's an original English book. Bo Hanyang raised his eyebrows slightly. Is there a problem? Jiang Zhining coughed dryly and suddenly remembered a popular saying on the internet. I don't know how many surprises you have. She was amused by her own imagination and shook her head with a chuckle. No, you are quite talented, awesome. Bo Hanyang's expression remained unchanged, and he actually said, thank you. Ahem. Jiang Zhining was choked, put down the cup silently, and looked at the man deeply. How shameless. She moved the coffee table away, pulled the sofa, took a quilt and pillow from the cupboard, and fell asleep on the sofa bed. I really don't understand whose family this is. How come he looks more like the owner than I do? I must have found an ancestor for myself. What did you say? A man's cold voice came from not far away, and Jiang Zhining realized belatedly that she had actually said what was in her heart. Fortunately, her voice was soft and the man probably didn't hear it. Nothing, it's getting late, go to bed early. I'm going to sleep first, good night. After that, she turned over and faced away from the man. Bo Hanyang looked at Jiang Zhining's back, a smile flashed in the depths of his eyes. He put down the book and turned off the light. The room fell into darkness. Jiang Zhining blinked and forced herself to close her eyes. 2 hours later, Bo Hanyang suddenly opened his eyes and glanced sharply towards the door. Third master. The visitor closed the door gently and walked quickly towards the bed. The room was too dark and he accidentally touched the bag on the ground. Bo Hanyang turned on the bedside lamp and frowned slightly. Be gentle. With the light on, the visitor noticed Jiang Zhining on the sofa bed and was shocked. The third master actually slept in the same room with Miss Jiang. Lin Yu, what's going on at home? Lin Yu came back to his senses. When the old lady heard about your accident, she was very emotional and wanted to come to find you immediately. The old man and the first and second wives persuaded her to stay. The people from the first and second wives are privately investigating your situation. The driver's family has been sending people to keep an eye on you, but no one has contacted them yet. Bo Hanyang's expression was cold. Find a chance to tell mother that my leg is fine. Yes, third master. Doctor Or will be arriving tomorrow. Should we arrange for him to go to Luhu Garden? Just have him come here. Here? Lin Yu looked around. This room is really too small. Even the toilet in Luhu Garden is bigger than this one. How could the third master be willing to live here? Is it because of Miss Jiang? However, there is no medical equipment here. I'm afraid it's not convenient to treat you. Bo Hanyang's expression was cold. I know my body well. Yes, I overstepped my bounds. Just as he finished speaking, there was a rustling sound from the sofa bed. Lin Yu was startled and instinctively squatted down and looked towards the sofa bed. Jiang Zhining got off the sofa bed and went straight into the bathroom without even looking over here. Lin Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief. I'll feel relieved once I confirm that you're safe. Before he finished saying the word go back, there was a noise in the bathroom again, and Lin Yu was startled. Bo Hanyang glanced towards the bathroom calmly and said, go to the curtains. Lin Yu quickly hid behind the curtains. Just as he stood still, he heard Bo Hanyang's cold voice again, turn around. Lin Yu didn't understand, but he still turned around as ordered. After making sure Lin Yu turned around, Bo Hanyang lowered his eyes to look at Jiang Zhining, who occupied half of his pillow. After coming out of the bathroom, the girl didn't even go towards the sofa bed, but went straight to the big bed. He lifted the quilt and got into bed in one go. And he didn't open his eyes the whole time. She just lay there carefree beside Bo Hanyang, rubbing her delicate little face on the pillow. The soft pajamas slid down as she moved, revealing dazzlingly white skin. From Bo Hanyang's perspective, he can completely see that half of the roundness, which is very tempting. Bo Hanyang closed his eyes and felt a little dry in the mouth. In the past, there were countless women who threw themselves at him, but he didn't even bother to look at them. But this little girl is different. Obviously, at the beginning, he only suspected that she was a spy sent by her second brother or those who were plotting against him, so he took advantage of the situation and got the certificate. Now, I actually want to explore it in depth. His whole body tensed up, and a trace of annoyance flashed in his narrow eyes. There was ice in every word he spoke. Roll. The woman next to him didn't react at all. Jiang Zhining. Jiang Zhining was still unaware, and even buried her face in the pillow, obviously fast asleep. After confirming that Jiang Zhining was not awake, Bo Hanyang called Lin Yu out. When Lin Yu came out, he couldn't believe what he saw. How come in just the blink of an eye, Miss Jiang fell asleep in the third master's bed? Even though only a little bit of his hair was exposed, the bulge was hard for him to ignore. Third master, do we need to investigate Miss Jiang further? Although Jiang Zhining had been investigated before, she had already slept in the third master's bed. As the first person to sleep in the third master's bed, she had to be clean and could not be someone sent by any party. Otherwise, the consequences will be disastrous. No need. Besides, she is my wife now, so be careful with how you address her in the future. Lin Yu was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. According to the third master's personality, anyone who had appeared around him in the past would have their ancestors thoroughly investigated. Now that we are sleeping in the same bed, there is no need to investigate further. And he even wants to change his address. Could it be that Master-san is serious this time? What kind of magic potion did the madam give to the third master? Lin Yu opened his mouth to say something to persuade him, but when he met Bo Hanyan's gaze, he ended up saying nothing. Before leaving, he looked back at the big bed, his heart filled with turmoil. I just hope that madam don't be like Miss Jiang before. On the big bed. Suddenly, a soft arm was placed on Bo Hanyan's waist, followed by a soft rubbing against his waist. His whole body tensed up and he looked down. The little girl who was originally sleeping on the pillow had moved down at some point and was now hugging his waist, with her delicate and soft little face buried in his belly, sleeping soundly. Bo Hanyang instinctively wanted to throw the woman off the bed. But when his fingers touched that smooth skin, he loosened his strength inexplicably. The sleeping little girl rubbed against his fingers without knowing whether to live or die. The soft touch reminded him of the little white cat he had raised for a while when he was a child. It was cute and clingy. Coupled with the smell of shower gel on the woman, which was exactly the same as his, Bo Hanyan's tense body gradually relaxed. He turned off the lights, lay down again, and pinched Jiang Zhining's face. That's your method, huh? Chapter 14. Why are you here? Jiang Zhining knew nothing about this and slept until dawn. After opening her eyes, she sighed comfortably. This was the first time she slept so well since the incident at the Jiang family. Jiang Zhining sat up in a daze and was shocked to find herself sleeping in the middle of the bed. Didn't she sleep on the sofa bed last night? How did she end up sleeping on the bed? Could it be that Bo Hanyang felt guilty in the middle of the night and changed sleeping places with her? But Bo Hanyang's leg was still injured. How could she be moved? Where is Bo Hanyang? Jiang Zhining looked around the room but didn't see anyone. She immediately became anxious and got out of bed, shouting as she walked. Bo Hanyang? Bo Hanyang? Where are you? What happened? Bo Hanyang's voice came from the kitchen. Jiang Zhining's eyes lit up and she quickly rushed to Bo Hanyang. Why did you run to the kitchen? When her eyes fell on the plate in Bo Hanyang's hand, Jiang Zhining was completely shocked. Are you making breakfast? Bo Hanyang maneuvered the wheelchair towards the dining table with an unchanged expression. Go put on your shoes, wash up and have breakfast. Jiang Zhining followed him and saw the milk, dumplings, bread and fried eggs on the table. She wondered if she was dreaming. Although she knew that Bo Hanyang would cook yesterday, she didn't expect that Bo Hanyang would get up early to make breakfast for her. Why does it feel weird? Bo Hanyang looked back and saw Jiang Zhining with a dazed look on his face, and the coldness in his eyes dissipated a lot. Not going yet. Oh, okay. Jiang Zhining put on her shoes like a sleepwalker and went into the bathroom. The bathroom door closed. Bo Hanyang withdrew his gaze, tapped the handrail with his fingers, and frowned. The way that girl ran over anxiously just now certainly didn't seem like she was acting, but maybe it was because she was too good at acting. If that girl was really sent by his second brother, he would never let her go easily. Jiang Zhining washed and changed her clothes, and Bo Hanyang was already sitting at the dining table. Seeing her sit down, Bo Hanyang put down the book in his hand. Jiang Zhining was slightly stunned. This is, waiting for her to have breakfast together. She clenched her hands, feeling inexplicably ashamed. Bo Hanyang was a patient, but he actually got up early in the morning to make breakfast for her. But she slept until noon, just like a scumbag. You're going out? Jiang Zhining came back to her senses when she heard a man's cold voice in her ears. Well, my mother just sent me a message asking me to go to the hospital. As she spoke, she stood up, took out a bank card from her wallet, wrote down the password and put it next to Bo Hanyang. There is currently 200,000 yuan in this card, and there will be more income coming in the future. I'm quite busy recently and may not be at home often. If you need anything, just use the money in the card to buy it. Are you supporting me? Ahem. Jiang Zhining was drinking milk when she choked and started coughing until tears came out. Bo Hanyang glanced at Jiang Zhining's red ears and pulled out a tissue and handed it to her. Jiang Zhining wiped her mouth and blushed as she explained, "You misunderstood. The 200,000 was agreed upon before. Now that you are injured and cannot work, it is natural for me, the one who earns money, to pay for the household expenses. Besides, we are now legally married, and all future income will be our joint property, so you can spend it with confidence." Joint property of husband and wife? Har. So this is the idea. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, and Bo Hanyang's deep eyes gradually became cold. He looked at Jiang Zhining as if he was looking at a dead person. Jiang Zhining didn't notice anything and rubbed his arms, wondering why he suddenly felt a little cold. Just household expenses. The man no longer misunderstood her. Jiang Zhining breathed a sigh of relief and waved his hand generously. You can use it to buy anything you want. The 200,000 is your money anyway. Bo Hanyang looked at her coldly, his thin lips slightly parted. Good. Jiang Zhining didn't hear the hidden meaning in his words and went straight to the hospital after breakfast. When they were almost at the hospital, Jiang's mother suddenly called. Ning Ning, are you almost there? Jiang Zhining couldn't help feeling a little dazed when she heard Jiang's mother's gentle and concerned voice coming from the microphone. Her nose felt sore. If she remembered correctly, the last time she heard her mother talk to her like this was when her father was still alive. Thinking of her father, Jiang Zhining's eyes became moist and her voice softened. Almost there. Okay, don't worry, be careful on the road. By the way, Mom wants to eat some apples. Ning Ning, go buy some fruit downstairs. It was rare for Jiang's mother to make such a simple request, so in addition to apples, Jiang Zhining also picked out a few other fruits that Jiang's mother liked. Why did you buy so much? Don't you think it's too heavy? Put it down quickly. Mother Jiang held Jiang Zhining's hand with a smile on her face. This kind of care was clearly what Jiang Zhining missed and expected the most, but for some reason, she felt a little uneasy in her heart. Mom, you called me here in a hurry, is there something wrong? Mother Jiang glanced at the kitchen inconspicuously and pinched Jiang Zhining's face in a reproachful manner. Girl, do I have to have something to ask you? Mommy just misses my baby, is that not okay? Feeling pain on her cheek, Jiang Zhining confirmed that she was not dreaming. Mom has really returned to the way she used to be. Her nose felt sore and she threw herself into Jiang Mu's arms. Of course. Mom, I missed you so much. Mother Jiang frowned slightly and stepped back imperceptibly, but did not push Jiang Zhining away. Instead, she patted her back gently. Okay, you're old enough, but you're still acting like a spoiled brat to your mom. Jiang Zhining shyly stepped out of Jiang Mu's arms with a bright smile on her face. Mom, Aunt, the apples are washed. A familiar voice came from behind. The smile on Jiang Zhining's face suddenly disappeared and he turned around in disbelief. Ning Ning, you're here too. Bo Jingxing smiled, put the fruit plate in his hand on the table, and touched Jiang Zhining's head. Jiang Zhining stepped back, avoiding his hand with disgust on her face. Why are you here? Ning Ning, how can you talk to Jingxing like that? Mother Jiang gave Jiang Zhining an unhappy look and patted the edge of the bed with a smile. Jingxing, come and sit down. Don't bother with Ning Ning, she's just having a childish temper. Don't worry, Auntie. I won't hold it against Ning Ning. I just like her childish innocence. Bo Jingxing sat down next to Jiang Zhining with a smile on his face. Jiang Zhining watched the interaction between the two with cold eyes, as if she was falling into an ice cellar. No wonder her mother was so anxious to have her come over. It turned out that she wanted her to meet Bo Jingxing. The warmth and concern before were all fake. Ning Ning also bought apples. We are so in sync. That's right. There were so many people chasing Ningning before, but Ningning didn't agree to anyone except you. It shows that she really likes you. Jiang's mother's smiling words were like a sharp sword that pierced Jiang Zhining's heart, causing her eyes to turn red with pain. Har, no wonder I asked her to buy apples, so that's the reason. Jiang's mother clearly knew that Bo Jingxing was cheating on her. He knew it clearly, but still wanted to match her up with Bo Jingxing. Is this still the same mother Jiang who doted on her so much? Ningning, stop being in a daze and take it. This is the apple that Jingxing peeled for you personally. Throughout the entire Ningchen, there is no one more considerate than Jingxing. Jiang Zhining came back to his senses when he heard Jiang's mother's words. How can you not find it? I have one at home. He even made breakfast for me when he was sick. As soon as the words fell, the ward fell into silence. Mother Jiang glared at Jiang Zhining fiercely and smiled awkwardly at Bo Jingxing. What nonsense are you talking about? Where Bo Jingxing couldn't see, Jiang's mother pinched Jiang Zhining's arm and said, What are you standing there for? Take it quickly. Her arm was in severe pain. Jiang Zhining's eyelashes trembled and she slowly stretched out her hand. Bo Jingxing curled the corners of his mouth slightly and deliberately tried to touch Jiang Zhining's hand. Jiang Zhining pulled his hand back abruptly, and the apple fell to the ground and rolled under the bed. Chapter 15, Thicker than the City Wall. Bo Jingxing could no longer bear it and shouted in a deep voice, Jiang Zhining. Jiang's mother called him early in the morning. He thought Jiang Zhining had thought it through, but was too embarrassed to ask him for help, so she postponed the meeting and came to the hospital. When he didn't see Jiang Zhining in the hospital, he guessed that it was Jiang's mother's idea, but he was also willing to be patient and coax Jiang Zhining. Who would have thought that, even though he had condescended to peel an apple for Jiang Zhining himself, Jiang Zhining would not give him face like this? Yes, I was wrong. But are you, Jiang Zhining, not wrong? The news you posted online caused the company's stock price to drop by half. Did you know that? Did I not apologize to you, or did I not give you a way out? What else do you want? Jiang Zhining was so angry at Bo Jingxing's words that she almost laughed. She shook off Jiang Mu's hand that was pinching her arm, ignored Jiang Mu's ugly expression, and looked at Bo Jingxing coldly. I'm wrong? Yes, my mistake was that I shouldn't have been soft-hearted and agreed to be your girlfriend. I shouldn't have not announced it to the world after knowing that you and Ji Shitong had an affair, so that everyone can see your and Ji Shitong's dirty faces. As for the decline in your company's stock price, that's your own fault. What does it have to do with me? Bang! There was a burning pain in my cheek and a buzzing in my ears. Jiang Zhining's mind went blank, and it took her a long time to react. Mother Jiang beat her for the second time. In the past, she was just a mother who cried out of pain when her fingers were cut, but now she was beaten for the second time because of a scumbag. The pain on her face was not even 1/10,000th of what she felt in her heart. Jiang Zhining looked at Jiang's mother with red eyes. Why? Am I your daughter, or is Bo Jingxing your son? Bo Jingxing was also shocked by Jiang's mother's sudden behavior, and his anger turned into astonishment. Is this still the Aunt Jiang who loved Jiang Zhining so much in the past? Mother Jiang didn't even look at Jiang Zhining, but smiled awkwardly at Bo Jingxing. I'm sorry to embarrass you. It's all my fault and her father's fault that we spoiled Ningning since she was a child. Ningning's father and I have always only recognized you as our son-in-law. In the future, I hope you can take good care of Ningning. Jiang Zhining stared at Jiang Mu in astonishment. She felt that the person in front of her was completely unfamiliar, like a monster in Jiang Mu's skin. She was unwilling to accept this fact and turned and ran out of the ward. Ning. Bo Jingxing nodded to Jiang's mother and followed her out. The ward fell silent. Mother Jiang frowned, blew on her red palms, picked up her phone and sent a message. Nan, don't worry, Jiang Group will only be yours. Mom will help you keep it safe until you come back. As for Jiang Zhining, although she had raised her for 23 years and had some feelings for her, she was no match for her own daughter. She originally thought that Nan was dead, which was why she picked up the abandoned baby. Unexpectedly, Nan was still alive. Mother Jiang opened the photo album and gently stroked the girl with an elegant smile on the screen with her fingers. After Jiang Zhining ran out of the ward, she gradually calmed down. She always felt that Jiang's mother's behavior was too strange, so she went to the doctor to consult whether Jiang's mother's condition was caused by mental stimulation or whether there was a psychological problem. Jiang Zhining felt very sad when she learned that Jiang's mother's condition was getting better and she did not have any mental or psychological illness. Why on earth would her mother, who once loved her so much, become like this? It was as if she was just a tool now. Ningning, I have something to tell you. Shall we go to the cafe at the door and talk? Jiang Zhining came back to her senses and saw Bo Jingxing blocking her way and reaching out to grab her hand. She avoided him in disgust, not wanting to talk to him anymore, and walked around him. Don't you want to hear about the Jiang group? Jiang Zhining turned and looked at him. Say it right here. Bo Jingxing met Jiang Zhining's eyes, but he only saw calmness. Her eyes were calm, without even a trace of other emotions. It seemed that Jiang Zhining had never liked him. When he thought of this possibility, Bo Jingxing became very angry. He took 2 steps forward and approached Jiang Zhining. Help me tell everyone first, it's you who don't like me and like someone else, so you drugged me and Ji Shatong, so. Jiang Zhining felt sick after hearing this, and distanced herself from him, interrupting him coldly, if you're sick, go see a doctor, don't go crazy in front of me. Can you please listen to what I have to say first? Bo Jingxing pulled his tie, as long as you help me, I can help you talk to Mr. Zhao. Maybe there is still room for improvement in the Jiangning Bay project. Jiangning Bay project. Bo Jingxing was a little surprised. You don't know yet, do you? The Jiangning Bay project that Uncle Jiang worked so hard to plan was supposed to start construction the day before yesterday, but Mr. Zhao has been reluctant to cooperate. Every day of suspension is a waste of money. If it is delayed and cannot be delivered on time, 10 jiangs will not be enough to pay the penalty for breach of contract. As long as you help me with this, I will help you talk to Mr. Zhao, and no one will suffer any loss. How do you think? No need. Jiang Zhining's eyes were cold and unmoved. I will handle the Jiangning Bay project myself, but I won't take the dirty water. You and Ji Shatong did such a disgusting thing. You enjoyed the pleasure in bed, so you should bear the cost outside the bed yourself. Jiang Zhining didn't want to say a word to him, so she turned around and left. Bo Jingxing's face turned ugly because of her words, and he stared at Jiang Zhining's back with a gloomy look. Jiang Zhining, I can give you time to think about it, and I can also make concessions. But you have to understand that the longer you delay, the longer the Jiang family will suffer losses. If you refuse, then in the future, even if you beg me, I will not help you. Jiang Zhining paused. Don't worry, even if I go to my knees and beg Mr. Zhao, I won't agree to your request. Bo Jingxing stared at Jiang Zhining's receding back, his already gloomy face becoming even gloomier, as if a storm was coming. Chapter 16 Jiang Zhining, my wife. Brother Jingxing. Are you here to pick me up? Ji Shatong carefully zipped up her bag and looked at Bo Jingxing with surprise. Seeing that Bo Jingxing didn't react, she looked in the direction he was looking at curiously. Jiang Zhining? How come she is here? Could it be that she is here to seduce Jingxing again? This dumb bitch. She will never let her go. Feeling a pain in his arm, Bo Jingxing came back to his senses and noticed Ji Shatong. His expression relaxed a lot. Why are you in the hospital? Is there something wrong with the child? Ji Shatong's heart tightened, she nervously clutched her bag and smiled unnaturally. Why, I came to see a friend. Bo Jingxing pulled his arm out of Ji Shatong's hand and took out all the anger he had felt towards Jiang Zhining on Ji Shatong. What friends? Male or female? Didn't I tell you that you are pregnant now and the situation is special? Try to go out as little as possible. If something happens to the child, Grandma will definitely not agree to let you in. When mentioning Madame Bo, Ji Shatong gritted her teeth in hatred. That damn old lady actually hid her household registration booklet. After learning that she was pregnant, her attitude softened. However, the doctor just told her that the previous checkup report was wrong and she was not pregnant at all. Old Madame Bo hated deception the most and already disliked her. If she knew the truth, then, she would probably have no hope of ever entering the Bo family again in her life. Ji Shatong was so confused that she didn't notice that Bo Jingxing's tone was wrong and just made up a lie. It's Miaxia, you know her too. Why are you involved with Jiang Zhining's cousin again? When it comes to Jiang Zhining, Bo Jingxing's anger rekindles and his face turns violent. Ji Shatong mistakenly thought that Bo Jingxing was angry because he was worried that she would run around and hurt the child, and she felt sweet in her heart. Brother Jingxing, don't worry, I will take good care of myself. It's almost time for dinner, let's go to the newly opened private restaurant for dinner. I heard that the restaurant was opened by young Master Ji, maybe. There's something going on at the company, so go by yourself. Come back early after dinner and don't run around. Bo Jingxing sent the message while talking, without even looking at Ji Shitong, and walked away. Ji Shitong was left alone and stomped her feet in anger. It must be that bitch Jiang Zhining who said something to brother Jingxing, otherwise, why would brother Jingxing be so cold to her? Ji Shitong sneered and made a phone call, track Jiang Zhining's whereabouts for me. As soon as the phone call was hung up, a new call came in. Ji Shitong thought it was Bo Jingxing calling, and said with joy, Brother Jingxing. Oh, I'm not the brother Jingxing you've been thinking about, har 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 har. Shitong, let's have lunch together at noon. After Jiang Zhining left the hospital, she went to her father's grave. After sitting in the cemetery for a whole morning, I still couldn't figure out why Jiang's mother had such a drastic change in her temperament. Seeing that it was almost noon, she blinked her sore eyes and took a taxi back to Wutong Cottage. Before she entered the door, she faintly heard someone talking inside. Okay, third master. Third master. Is Bo Hanyang watching TV? Jiang Zhining opened the door curiously and was faced with two strange men. She took 2 steps back vigilantly. Who are you? Where is Bo Hanyang? Lin Yu and Dr. Or froze where they were, not daring to speak rashly. Lin Yu. I miscalculated. I wouldn't have met him if I had had one more minute. Noticing that Or was still looking at Jiang Zhining curiously, Lin Yu hurriedly touched him with his arm. Looking at my lady like this is like asking for death. The next second, Bo Hanyang's cold and indifferent voice was heard in the room. I'm back. Lin Yu and Aor hurriedly made way to the left and right, revealing Bo Hanyang sitting in a wheelchair. Seeing Bo Hanyang, Jiang Zhining relaxed his guard. Who are they? Lin Yu, Aoa, my friends. Jiang Zhining, my wife. When Jiang Zhining heard the word madam for the first time, she felt awkward and shy, and the tips of her ears hidden in her hair turned red. Hello. Madam, hello, we have something else to do, so we'll leave first. Lin Yu said this and quickly pulled Or away. Jiang Zhining had something hidden in her mind, so she didn't ask any more questions and just closed the door and went into their house. The little girl went out with full energy, and came back dejectedly, with traces of crying in her eyes. Bo Hanyang's eyes were gloomy. Is this being bullied? What happened? No, what are we having for lunch? Jiang Zhining didn't want to talk to Bo Hanyang about the bad things that happened in the morning, so she asked casually. As soon as I said this, I saw the empty dining table and felt awkward. I'm craving for food outside, so how about going out for lunch? Good. Jiang Zhining was absent-minded. She had mentioned Bo Hanyang's destination when she took the taxi. She didn't come back to her senses until the car stopped in front of the restaurant. Before I got out of the car, horns started honking behind me, one after another, as if urging me to die. Jiang Zhining frowned and pushed Bo Hanyang out of the car. As soon as she stood firm, the red supercar stopped arrogantly in front of her. Jiang Miexia and Ji Shitong got out of the car. Hey, Jiang Zhining, you still have money to eat here. Jiang Miexia chewed bubble gum, blew a bubble, and looked disdainful. Miexia, don't say that. Zhining is the most famous lady in Ningxing after all. It's just a meal. How can she not afford it? Pucci, the #1 socialite in Ningxing? Har 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 har, her father, the chairman of Jiang Corporation, is already dead, and she is still the #1 socialite. It's so funny. Bang! A slap hit Jiang Miexia's face hard. Jiang Miexia was stunned by the sudden slap. She covered her burning face in shock and disbelief. Jiang Zhining, how dare you hit me? Jiang Miexia was so angry that her eyes turned red. She raised her hand to fight back, but Jiang Zhining grabbed her wrist tightly and pushed her to the ground. Jiang Zhining lowered his eyes coldly and looked at her expressionlessly. If you disrespect your elders, I'll beat you up. If you dare to disrespect my father again, I don't mind fulfilling my duties as an elder and teaching you what respect and filial piety mean. For some reason, Jiang Miexia suddenly felt a little scared when she met Jiang Zhining's icy eyes. She gritted her teeth and said, just wait. I will make you pay back this slap 1,000 times. Jiang Zhining didn't take her harsh words seriously at all. She pushed Bo Hanyang and turned away. Jiang Miexia glared at Jiang Zhining fiercely, wishing she could stab her to death with her eyes. Jiang Miexia sat on the ground, unable to get up, and many people around her looked at her in awe. Ji Shitong felt a little embarrassed, and a hint of impatience flashed in her eyes. What a waste! Okay, get up, everyone is watching. Jiang Miexia stood up angrily and glared at Ji Shitong unhappily. Why didn't you help me just now? You just watched that bitch Jiang Zhining beat me. I'm so mad at you. Are you still my good sister? I would like to help you, but you didn't see the look in that cripple's eyes. He looked like a vicious wolf. Thinking of Bohanyan's eyes, Ji Shitong still felt a little scared. For some reason, when facing that man, she didn't dare to do anything to Jiang Zhining. That cripple in a wheelchair? What's so scary about a useless man? You are too timid. Jiang Miexia snorted coldly, let's go quickly. I want to see how the two poor guys are kicked out. Ningqing's most famous lady can't even enter the restaurant. I feel happy just thinking about it. When they reached the entrance of the restaurant, Jiang Zhining was stunned and looked down at Bohanyang. Is this the restaurant you chose? Bohanyang glanced at the decoration at the door and barely accepted it. Any questions? Of course there is a problem. Jiang Zhining also knew about this restaurant. She heard that it was opened by young Master Ji from Dijing, and the average consumption per person was in the 6 figures. In the past, she could certainly afford it. However, now that her mother was ill and money was being spent like water, she had not yet inherited the Jiang family and could not afford such spending. Chapter 17, A Brainless Idiot. Why, you just realized you can't afford it now. Jiang Miexia looked at Jiang Zhining sarcastically, her teeth itching with hatred. As both are the eldest daughters of the Jiang family, why do people only know Jiang Zhining and not her, Jiang Miexia? Now that Jiang Zhining's father has finally passed away, and when her father inherits the Jiang family, she wants to let the world see who is the true number one socialite in Ningqing. Jiang Miexia suddenly gained confidence and looked at the doorman in a commanding manner. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and drive these two poor bastards away. I don't want to eat in the same restaurant with people like them. Jiang Miexia has been coming to the restaurant frequently recently, so the doorman naturally knows her. On the contrary, Jiang Zhining and Bohanyang were unfamiliar faces. However, the clothes on Jiang Zhining looked very expensive. Especially the man in the wheelchair, his aura was so breathtaking that he didn't look like an ordinary person at all. If he accidentally offends some powerful person, his job would be lost. The doorman hesitated for a moment. Jiang Miexia was very embarrassed and took out a card from her bag and shoved it in the doorman's face. Open your eyes and look carefully. I am your super member. Do I have to call your manager out? The doorman looked helplessly at Jiang Zhining and Bohanyang. Sorry, we cannot serve you without a membership card. Please leave. Jiang Zhining's face darkened. She hadn't planned to eat here, but even though Jiang Miexia had bullied her to such an extent, she still insisted on going in. Since you need a membership card, I'll get one now. Wow, you are so arrogant. The membership card of this restaurant requires a 7-digit deposit. Jiang Zhining, I remember you are still renting a house, and that house seems to be only 50 square meters. If you can't come up with the money, don't lie here. Aren't you ashamed? Jiang Miexia crossed her arms over her chest, walked proudly to Jiang Zhining, and spoke as if giving arms. You can go in and eat if you want. As long as you kneel down and admit your mistake and apologize, I will reluctantly take you and your crippled husband to see the world. Who knows, you might even meet a rich sponsor in there who will keep you and your crippled husband together. Then you can be the number one socialite again for the rest of your life. Hearing this, Jiang Zhining's anger was instantly ignited. She is the most protective of her own people. How dare Jiang Miexia insult Bohanyang like this? It seems that slap just now still didn't teach you how to respect your elders. Seeing Jiang Zhining raise her hand again, Jiang Miexia was so scared that she hid behind the doorman. Her face still hurts. I don't know how that bitch Jiang Zhining can be so strong. Jiang Miexia was so angry that she hit the doorman and said arrogantly, useless. They don't even have the money to apply for a card, why don't you kick them out? A cold gaze came from the side. Jiang Miexia shuddered and looked at Bohanyang's expressionless face. Somehow, her hair stood on end, as if she was being stared at by a wild beast. She took 2 steps back in fear. After she stood firm, she felt ashamed again and yelled at Bohanyang with her neck stiffened. What are you looking at? He's already sitting in a wheelchair, he must be disabled. Woof woof. A dog suddenly jumped out from somewhere and ran straight towards Jiang Zhining. Jiang Zhining was so scared that she wanted to hide in the store, but she ran into the manager who came out after hearing the noise. Jiang Zhining quickly hid behind the manager and screamed, "Why is there a dog in front of your store? Drive it away." The manager looked in the direction of their voice and saw Bohanyang sitting in a wheelchair. He opened his eyes wide in surprise. 3. As soon as he opened his mouth, he met Bohanyang's eyes, and the manager understood and stopped talking. Turned around and looked at Jiang Zhining. "Miss Jiang, what's going on?" Jiang Zhining carefully poked her head out from behind the manager and saw the black-backed dog that had just chased her was wagging its tail wildly at the disabled man. She muttered angrily, "A beast deserves to be with a beast." Her voice was not loud, but everyone present could still hear it clearly. Jiang Zhining was groping in the dark. When she heard this, her eyes shone and she said with a smile, "Be good, you heard the dog barking, right? Help your sister teach that bad dog a lesson, okay?" I don't know if the blackback understood or not, but it rubbed against Jiang Zhining's palm and barked obediently. "Jiang Zhining, who are you calling a dog?" Jiang Zhining was so angry that she was shaking all over. "You can't even hear that, you're a brainless idiot. You." Jiang Zhining looked at the manager, "Hurry up and kick out these two people who don't have membership cards. Also, tie up that beast, I want to teach him a lesson." Jiang Zhining was used to being arrogant and completely forgot that this was the outside world, not the Jiang family. The manager looked at Jiang Zhining as if she were a dead person. Is this woman crazy? It's bad enough that he called the general who called the young master a beast, but he even dared to offend Master Sanye of the imperial capital. He is really courting his life. He waved to the doorman and said, "Go and call the security guard over and ask Miss Jiang and this friend to leave." After saying that, the manager looked at Bohanyang and Jiang Zhining with an extremely respectful tone. "We are very sorry to bring you an unpleasant experience. We promise that we will carefully review their member information in the future. The young master happened to be here today. If he knew you were coming, he would definitely be very happy." Jiang Zhining was stunned. "Young master? Young Master Ji from the imperial capital?" Although it felt good to slap Jiang Zhining and Ji Shitong in the face, Jiang Zhining really didn't know young Master Ji and didn't want to cause any misunderstanding. "Maybe I'm mistaken, young Master Ji and I don't seem to know each other." Yes, there is no way Jiang Zhining knows young Master Ji from imperial capital. If she recognized the wrong person and kicked the super member out, it would affect the reputation of the restaurant if it got out. Ji Shitong, who had been watching the show in silence, spoke softly, apparently giving a reminder but actually threatening. Jiang Zhining came back to her senses from her shock and started shouting as well. "That's right, you got the wrong person. And you want to kick us out? I think your career as a manager has come to an end." She became more and more excited as she spoke, pointing at the manager and talking nonsense. "Kneel down and apologize to me immediately, and compensate me with 2 bottles of your store's signature green plum drink, and I will consider forgiving you." Because of her loud voice and arrogant attitude, she attracted many scrutiny from people around her. Jiang Zhining not only did not feel embarrassed, but she thought the more people there were, the better. This way, when Jiang Zhining and the cripple are kicked out, it will be even more embarrassing. Even more satisfying. Jiang Zhining touched her still stinging face, her eyes filled with malice and joy. The manager completely lost his patience. "Come here quickly and ask them to leave. It seems that these 2 women are not desperate, but are tired of living." Ji Shitong had a smile on her face and was waiting leisurely to see Jiang Zhining being kicked out. She was even preparing to record a video later. "When the time comes, let Brother Jingxing see how miserable Jiang Zhining looks." Just as she was thinking about it, she saw the security guard walking straight towards her and Jiang Zhining, and she suddenly had a bad feeling. The manager looked at Jiang Zhining respectfully with a flattering smile on his face. "You really don't know our young master, but this gentleman is our young master's friend. Look, the young master's blackback likes this gentleman, which is the best proof." "What?" Everyone present was shocked. Jiang Zhining's face changed. That beast was actually Master Ji's dog. Then she just. "Ms. Jiang, Miss Ji, please come in." Jiang Zhining felt extremely embarrassed with the gazes and whispers from people around her. "I'm not going out. Why should I go out? I'm a distinguished super member. The security guards ignored her screams and carried her out, one on each side. Ji Shatong managed to maintain her composure, forced a smile, and looked at the manager apologetically. I'm sorry, I misunderstood before. Miaxia is just a child. She didn't mean it. I apologize on her behalf. No need. Our restaurant is too small to accommodate two big statues of Miss Jiang and Miss Ji. From now on, the restaurant will not entertain you too. Chapter 18, She is indeed the one that Mr. Bo-san likes. Ji Shatong wanted to explain further, but the security guard came forward and forcefully carried her out. I could faintly hear the manager's flattering voice behind me. The Sanye private room is empty for you. Please order first and I will notify the young master immediately. Ji Shatong was so angry that her teeth were itching. The gazes from the people around her made her unable to raise her head. Sanye private room. As soon as the manager left, Jiang Zhining looked at Bo Hanyang inquiringly. Do you know young Master Ji? Bo Hanyang responded indifferently, without any intention of explaining further. Jiang Zhining suppressed her curiosity and doubts and ultimately did not ask any further questions. Anyway, she and the man will be divorced soon, so it's okay for them not to know each other deeply. Just as she was thinking about it, she suddenly felt a warm and furry touch on her hand. Jiang Zhining lowered her eyes in surprise and met a pair of bright, watery puppy eyes. She couldn't help but touch the general's head and softened her voice unconsciously. Your name is General. Woof. Jiang Zhining was completely captured by the general's obedience, and her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. Go ahead. A cold man's voice came from the other side. The general seemed to understand it. He woofed and ran out quickly. His palm felt empty, and the smile on Jiang Zhining's lips gradually faded. Damn it, who is that cripple? He even knows young Master Ji. As soon as Ji Shatong was released by the security guard, she heard Jiang Miaxia shouting in dissatisfaction. More than just knowing each other, the manager took them directly to the Shanyu private room. What? Jiang Miaxia grabbed Ji Shatong's arm and said, Are you sure it's the Shanyu private room? That's the best room in this restaurant. Someone spent 7 figures to get in before, but they didn't get in. I heard that this room was reserved by young Master Ji for himself. How could that bitch Jiang Zhining get in? Why? How can she, a poor daughter whose father died, enjoy such preferential treatment? Who else can it be? Of course it's that cripple. Ji Shatong frowned in disgust. This brainless, outspoken idiot. As a result, she can no longer come to the restaurant. However, it is just a restaurant. There are many opportunities and ways to make friends with young Master Ji. So what if you know young Master Ji? A cripple is just a cripple and can't cause any trouble. You are no match for your brother Jingxing. I heard that the Bo family is preparing to move to the imperial capital. You are. Get out of here. Jiang Miaxia was most afraid of dogs, and German shepherds looked fierce. She was so scared that her face turned pale and she instinctively hid behind Ji Shatong. Ji Shatong also had a look of fear on her face, but Jiang Miaxia grabbed her back and she could only swing her bag at the general. Woof! The general pounced on Ji Shatong and knocked her to the ground, biting her clothes and pulling them. Hiss! Ji Shatong's white dress was torn into a big hole in the middle, revealing a large area of the scenery inside. The people around who were watching the show took photos one after another. Ji Shatong screamed, covered her clothes and cried as she stood up. Jiang Miaxia was so shocked by this scene that she completely forgot to hide. The black back pounced and gave her the same design. Jiang Miaxia almost fainted from fright, her face turned pale and she covered her hands with her clothes. Ji Shatong came in Jiang Miaxia's car, so she had to pull up Jiang Miaxia, who was limp on the ground, and said hatefully, Run to the car. Yes, let's drive. Let's go. Jiang Miaxia reacted immediately and ran away in panic, grabbing her clothes. Seeing that the blackback was about to catch up with her again, she panicked and subconsciously pushed Ji Shatong next to her. Ji Shatong was unexpectedly pushed to the ground, and the blackback scratched another hole on her clothes. Her upper body was completely exposed to the air. Ji Shatong was angry, hateful and ashamed, and her eyes shot at Jiang Miaxia like a poisonous knife. Seeing a car approaching not far away, Ji Shatong grabbed her clothes, got up, and pushed Jiang Miaxia hard on the back. Bang! Jiang Zhining was hit on the leg by the oncoming car and flew several meters away. Her head tilted and she completely lost consciousness. There was a faint sound outside the window, and Jiang Zhining asked curiously, "What's going on outside?" The manager put down the exquisite dinner plate, glanced at the black dog lying at Bohanyan's feet, and calmly recounted the experiences of Jiang Zhining and Ji Shitong. Jiang Zhining was silent for 2 seconds, then picked up a piece of pork ribs and placed it on a plate on the small table nearby. "The general is such a good dog." The general woofed and rubbed the back of Jiang Zhining's hand. Jiang Zhining looked at the manager with a smile. "If something happens at the restaurant entrance, I'm afraid it will be troublesome. If necessary, I can testify at any time." The manager couldn't help but look at Jiang Zhining with a higher opinion. As expected of someone who could catch the eye of Mr. Sanye, his neither humble nor arrogant demeanor was truly extraordinary. In contrast, Jiang Zhining and Ji Shitong seemed even more stupid. "There are surveillance cameras at the door, so it can't be blamed on us. Why didn't you tell me in advance that third brother was coming? I could have prepared the best wine and food." A clear male voice came from the door, and Jiang Zhining looked up. The man was dressed in casual clothes and had a crew cut. A broad smile hung on his handsome face and his eyes showed a clear stupidity. He looked like a college student from a sports university. When he saw Jiang Zhining, the man's eyes lit up and he rushed over and stretched out his hand. "This must be my sister-in-law. Hello, I'm Ji Feiyu." The other party was too enthusiastic. Jiang Zhining couldn't resist for a moment and couldn't help but look at Bohanyan. Bohanyan glanced at Ji Feiyu indifferently, and Ji Feiyu immediately acted like a mouse seeing a cat. He scratched the back of his head and sat down next to Bohanyan. "Third brother, I came to find you right after I escaped. Isn't that very considerate? Third brother is really amazing. He found me a little sister-in-law after not seeing me for such a short time. The little sister-in-law is so pretty, even prettier than that girl Jiang Zhining." Ahem. The manager was shocked when he heard this and hurriedly winked at Ji Feiyu. "The young master is really good." He mentioned Miss Jiang in front of Mrs. Bo and he was not afraid that Mr. Bo would skin him alive. Ji Feiyu seemed to realize that something was wrong. He scratched the back of his head with a dry laugh and picked up the wine glass beside him. "Well, I was wrong. I have to drink 3 cups as punishment." "Hey." Jiang Zhining opened her eyes wide in shock. "That's Bohanyan's cup." As soon as he finished speaking, Ji Feiyu had already finished the drink. The manager didn't want to see his young master's stupidity anymore, so he left as soon as the dishes were served to avoid being burned by Mr. Sanye's anger. Ji Feiyu drank 3 glasses of wine by himself. Seeing that Bohanyan's face became more gloomy, he felt a pang in his heart and did not dare to stay any longer. "Well, there's still a lot to do in the restaurant. I'll go get busy first. If you need anything, feel free to call me." Having said that, he ran away. Jiang Zhining was stunned the whole time, and even when the door of the box closed, she was still a little dazed. The door of the box suddenly opened again. Ji Feiyu rushed in quickly and put the wine jug in front of Jiang Zhining. "Sister-in-law, this is our first meeting. It's a gift for you. It's good for your health, so make sure you finish it all. Bye." After saying that, he blew away like another gust of wind. Jiang Zhining. Giving wine to someone the first time they meet, this young Master Ji is really different. However, the wine smelled delicious, and she was in a really bad mood today, so she really wanted to drink some. "I just don't know if the alcohol content is high. Drinking a little bit shouldn't make me drunk, right?" Chapter 19, The Third Brother is Being Kept. Jiang Zhining didn't taste much of the food in the restaurant, but the wine that Ji Feiyu brought was unexpectedly delicious. Jiang Zhining couldn't help but drink 1 cup after another, and she didn't want to stop even when her face turned red. Bohanyan ate very little, and when he saw that the little girl opposite him was almost drunk, he spoke with dignity. "Be careful about getting drunk." "Drunk? Har har. I'm not drunk." Jiang Zhining shook his head, suddenly stood up with the wine jug, and staggered towards Bohanyan. "You should try it too. Ji Feiyu said it's good for your health. Drink more. Maybe your legs will get better." This girl is obviously drunk. The smell of alcohol mixed with the floral scent of the little girl filled the air. Bohanyan subtly held her arm to prevent her from falling headfirst onto the table. Jiang Zhining knew how to enjoy herself. She used Bohanyan's hand as a crutch and sat down crookedly. She held up her little face and blinked her misty eyes. Why don't you drink? Bohanyan looked at her deeply with his cold eyes. What happened? This girl has been acting strange since she came back from noon, and now she has let herself get drunk again. What exactly happened in the hospital? But if no one is watching for a day, he will be bullied. Nothing happened. The general finished eating the meat on the plate and seemed to sense that Jiang Zhining was in a bad mood. He came over and rubbed the back of her hand. Jiang Zhining hugged him and stroked his fur. The general rubbed Jiang Zhining's face passionately and wanted to lick it with his tongue. Come over. The man's voice was cold and the general froze, his tail drooped, he struggled to break free and lay down obediently beside Bohanyan. The cuddly dog left, and Jiang Zhining suddenly felt depressed, with big tears rolling down her cheeks like beads from a broken string. Bohanyan moved his fingers. Don't cry. Jiang Zhining wiped her eyes and said stubbornly, I'm not crying. I just don't know why Mom has become like a different person. Obviously, she has always doted on me the most. She respects me and never forces me to do anything I don't like. How come she doesn't care about my feelings at all since Dad passed away? It's as if I'm not her biological daughter. Jiang Zhining's eyes were red with grievance, and her words were full of confusion, bewilderment, and deep grievance, which made people feel distressed. Bohanyan's eyes moved slightly. So that's why. Jiang Mu's change is indeed strange. The little girl has a keen sense of perception, so maybe that is really possible. If this is true, then what is Jiang Zhining's identity? Bohanyan's eyes were deep, indeed. Indeed what? Jiang Zhining was very emotional. She grabbed Bohanyan's sleeve and looked up at him in disbelief. I am really not my mother's biological child. Those little dear eyes were filled with tears, as if as long as Bohanyan nodded, the tears would burst out. Bohanyan frowned, and for no reason he recalled the way Jiang Zhining comforted him that night. Lively, optimistic, and full of hope for the world and the future. Despite the great changes in life, she is still sunny and full of energy. He was actually quite curious about the truth. After knowing the truth, would Jiang Zhining still be able to maintain this rare optimism and vitality? It's rare to find a bit of interest in such a boring life. Bohanyan curled his lips slightly and smiled softly. You have to find the answer yourself. The usually expressionless, iceberg-like handsome face suddenly revealed a smile, like ice and snow melting, which made people mesmerized. Jiang Zhining was stunned and murmured, You laughed. The smile and interest on Bohanyan's face suddenly disappeared, as quickly as if nothing had happened. What? Third brother laughed. What does he look like? Let me see. Ever since Jiang Zhiyu arrived before he even showed up. He ran straight to Bohanyan excitedly, but was frozen in place by a look from Bohanyan. He coughed twice and sat down opposite Jiang Zhining. Hi, sister-in-law. Don't shake your hands, you'll feel dizzy. Jiang Zhining felt her head was extremely heavy. She supported her face with her hands and frowned. Jiyu observed Jiang Zhining carefully, and after confirming that she was really drunk, he immediately took credit for it. Third brother, you are doubting my sister-in-law's identity. They say the truth comes out when drunk. Ask now, you will definitely find out. I am smart, right? Bohanyan looked at him silently, his dark eyes cold and sharp. Roll. Not only did Jiyu not leave, he also moved closer to Bohanyan with a smile. Third brother, come on, scold me again. I haven't heard you scold me for a long time, you are so kind. You don't know what a miserable life I have been living since my father sent me to that island. Even my favorite curly hair was shaved off. I worked so hard to be able to come out to see you earlier. I didn't expect to hear the news that you had a car accident before the time came. I was so anxious that I swam for a whole day to escape. Third brother, if my father beats me then, you must help me. Jiyu has been a naughty boy since he was young. He always causes trouble by teasing cats and dogs. His father couldn't control him and had no choice but to send him to the Bo family. It can be said that Jiyu grew up following Bohanyan, and has long been accustomed to Bohanyan's changeable temperament. Seeing that Bohanyan didn't say anything, Jiyu became anxious. Third brother, seriously, after hearing the news about your accident, I first learned how to write the word fear. I am really afraid that something will happen to you. I have to see you in person to feel relieved. Young Master Ji from Dijing has been fearless since childhood, but this is the first time he said he was afraid. Bohanyan's cold eyes softened a lot. Stop causing trouble. Yes, sir. With Bohanyan's approval, Ji Feiyu immediately became happy again. By the way, this is the Supreme membership card I bought for my sister-in-law. I'll give you a free meal today. 100,000, by credit card. Bohanyang took out the card and put it on the table with an indifferent expression. Ji Feiyu choked and looked down. It is neither a black card nor a platinum card, it is just an ordinary bank savings card. He was startled and looked suddenly at Jiang Zhining, who was still drinking across from him. This can't be my sister-in-law's card. This. The third brother and his younger sister-in-law went out to eat, and his younger sister-in-law gave him money. Did the third brother get married, or is he being kept by someone? Ji Feiyu swiped the card, but couldn't help but said, "Third brother, if you are short of money." "No, third brother promised to help me deal with my father. I will cover all of your expenses in Ningchen. It's not easy for my sister-in-law to make money, so let's not use her money." He didn't dare to say too much. He took out the black card and the previous bank card from his wallet and handed them to Bohanyang. Bohanyang refused to accept the black card. His handsome face was stern and showed no emotion. "My current identity is a penniless driver with disabled legs. Do you understand? Ji Feiyu. Penniless? Both legs are disabled. Still just a driver." Who could have thought that these words would be associated with Master Bo Sanye, the powerful head of the Bo family in the imperial capital, who could make everything happen with a wave of his hand, and that these words were given to himself by Master Bo Sanye himself? It's really outrageous. It's off the mark. Could it be that the third brother was drugged by his sister-in-law? Chapter 20: Jealousy. Third brother has suffered too much, so Ji Feiyu certainly hopes that there will be someone who understands Bohanyang. But Ji Feiyu frowned and looked at Jiang Zhining, who was about to lie on the table. "Third brother, have you found out the identity of my sister-in-law?" Bohanyang remained silent. "What if my sister-in-law is someone sent from there? Besides, third brother, you will have to go back to the imperial capital sooner or later. My sister-in-law grew up in Ningchen. Will she be able to accept your true identity, give up everything in Ningchen, and go back with you?" Ji Feiyu threw out a series of questions. Bohanyang suddenly reached out, picked up Jiang Zhining and placed her on his lap. "I know my limits." Ji Feiyu felt uneasy. Is this cold being sensible? No matter how special third brother was to Jiang Shueyar before, he had never done this. "Third brother, even if you get involved, you must first make sure that my sister-in-law is not someone sent by someone else before you get involved." Bohanyang glanced at him coldly. "Am I someone who will get high?" Ji Feiyu. He sighed helplessly. "Third brother, please don't make this a real thing." The only response he got was the sound of the door closing. Lin Yu had been waiting at the door for a long time. When he saw Jiang Zhining in Bohanyang's arms, he wanted to speak several times. "Third master, why don't I find a waitress to help you?" "Your legs. You're too talkative." Bohanyang's eyes were deep and his words were icy cold. Lin Yu said no more and silently sent a message to Dr. Orr. There was cold sweat on Sanye's forehead, probably because of the pain from the wound. Although Dr. Orr said that Sanye's leg was fine, he was still terrified every time he saw Sanye sitting in a wheelchair. The drunk Jiang Zhining was exceptionally quiet, sleeping soundly in Bohanyang's arms. Bohanyang put her on the bed, and just as he was about to get up, she grabbed his sleeve. "Dad, don't go." Tears kept rolling down from the corners of her eyes, and the sleeping Jiang Zhining started crying without any warning. Bohanyang leaned back against the head of the bed, his deep gaze falling on Jiang Zhining. Don't go, Dad." Jiang Zhining cried so hard that half of her face was wet with tears. Bohanyang frowned slightly. "Jiang Zhining." Jiang Zhining opened her eyes dazedly, and was stunned for a moment when she saw a cold and handsome face. "Who are you?" "My face was wet, my eyes were sore, and my head felt dizzy and heavy." She frowned and touched her face, a handful of water, and immediately glared at the man with disgust. "You spit water in my face." Bohanyang remained silent, his dark eyes were cold. Lin Yu just walked over and heard this, and almost laughed out loud. "Third master, the hangover soup is ready." Bohanyang took it and handed it to Jiang Zhining coldly. "Drink it." Just drink it, why are you so fierce? Jiang Zhining took the cup and took a big sip. Hiss, hot, hot, hot. Her eyes instantly turned red, and her pretty little face was full of accusations. Squeamish. Bohanyan's eyes fell on her red lips. He took the cup from her hand and placed it on the bedside, then glanced at Lin Yu coldly. Lin Yu, the car has been modified. It was modified by young Master Ji himself. It should be delivered by now. Doctor or should be here too. I'll go take a look. Bohanyan, will life always be so bitter? Jiang Zhining tilted her little face upward, her pretty eyes sparkling with anticipation. Bohanyan lowered his eyes, looked deeply into hers with his deep black eyes, and said cruelly and coldly, yes. The little girl opened her eyes wide in surprise, as if she didn't expect to get this answer. The next second, tears instantly filled her eyes. Just when she was about to roll down, Jiang Zhining held back her tears, looking unconvinced. Impossible. I don't believe it. Life will definitely get better and better. She showed that kind of vigorous vitality, just like a sapling trying to grow upwards in the cracks of the rocks on a cliff. Such vitality and hope seemed to pierce the darkness, and for a moment illuminated Bohanyan's withered heart. He lowered his eyes and handed the warm hangover soup to Jiang Zhining. Drink and go to sleep. Jiang Zhining took a sip cautiously, her face wrinkled as she thought it tasted unpalatable, and she covered her mouth and refused to drink any more. It's too hard to drink, don't drink it. Bohanyan looked impatient and stared at her coldly. Jiang Zhining was a little scared and buried her face in the pillow and refused to look at him. Bohanyan was silent for 2 seconds and took out a piece of chocolate from the drawer. Would you like some chocolate? Eat. Jiang Zhining looked up in surprise, and a cup of sobering soup was placed next to her lips. You can eat after you finish drinking. She pouted and had to drink the sobering soup obediently. After eating the chocolate, Jiang Zhining insisted on brushing her teeth and taking a shower before going to bed. Bang! There was a loud noise in the bathroom and Bohanyan frowned. What happened? Jiang Zhining. There was no sound in the bathroom for a long time, and Bohanyan pushed open the door. The little girl stood by the bathtub, holding a bath towel in her hand, her long hair sticking wetly to her body. Her black hair and snow-white skin were covered with a hazy halo under the bathroom light. She was stunningly beautiful. When the little girl met his gaze, her eyes widened in daze, and she suddenly screamed the next second. Rogue! The bathroom door slammed shut. Jiang Zhining wrapped herself in a bath towel belatedly, and her dizzy head finally cleared up for a moment. Bohanyan, this filthy rascal. She usually looks serious, but I didn't expect that he would peek at her taking a bath when she was drunk. No, we can't live together anymore. Outside the door. Bohanyan felt his body's reaction and his whole body tensed up, with a hint of surprise and annoyance flashing across his deep eyes. Damn it! Just one glance at her ignited all his desires. After the accident just now, Jiang Zhining changed into pajamas before staggering out of the bathroom. Her mind was in a state of confusion, and she was wavering between being sober and drunk. She instinctively walked to the big bed and got under the covers. Bohanyan sat in a wheelchair beside the bed, his eyes deep. You want him to sleep on the sofa bed? Is he, Mr. Bosan, the kind of person who would sleep on the sofa? Before Jiang Zhining fell asleep, a name suddenly popped up in her mind. She suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Bohanyan inquiringly. Who is Jiang Shuya? Bohanyan's eyes moved slightly, but his handsome face showed no emotion. A friend. You had your household registration book in your bag that day. Were you planning to get married with her? Jiang Zhining had always been puzzled as to why Bohanyan carried his household registration book with him. Now that he knew about Jiang Shuya, it was hard not to connect the two. No. Oh. Jiang Zhining closed her eyes again, her voice a little unclear. If you like her, you can pursue her, but let me make it clear first. Before we get a divorce certificate, it's best not to confirm the relationship. I don't want to be the third party. As he spoke, his voice became quieter and quieter. Fortunately, the room was very quiet and Bohanyan heard every word. His cold gaze fell on Jiang Zhining, his eyes were heavy and no emotion could be seen. Because of the alcohol, Jiang Zhining slept very soundly and had no idea that Bohanyan was scolded by Doctor or and even gave her the nickname, the beauty who brings disaster. Jiang Zhining slept until dark and woke up from his drowsiness. I feel dizzy, my eyes are sore, my stomach is churning, and I feel uncomfortable all over. Chapter 21. Do you regret it now? Jiang Zhining frowned uncomfortably. What did I do before? Why do I feel so uncomfortable? Wake up, there's water on the table. Jiang Zhining turned around and saw a glass of lemonade beside the bed. Weren't we having dinner in the restaurant? When did you go home? She raised her eyes and looked towards the balcony. Bo Hanyang was holding a book on finance and had no intention of answering her. Jiang Zhining tried to recall it carefully, but all her memories were fragmented. But I don't remember how I got back or what happened after I came back. I only remember that she seemed to have taken a bath and asked Bo Hanyang about Jiang Shui'er. Jiang Zhining pressed his brows in annoyance, feeling a wave of regret in his heart. After all, she and Bo Hanyang were just strangers living in the same house, yet she felt comfortable getting drunk in front of Bo Hanyang. It's crazy. She picked up her phone and looked through the messages while getting out of bed and washing up. In just one afternoon, Jiang's mother made more than 50 calls and sent more than 30 text messages. It must be her good aunt who made trouble again because of Jiang Miexier's matter. Jiang Zhining scanned the message quickly and had no intention of replying immediately. She was about to put down her phone when she discovered that she had 2 unread messages from the bank. Your card with the last number 9888 issued 100,000 renminbi at 13:30 on May 5th. Your card with the last number 9888 withdrew 100,000 renminbi at 15:25 on May 5th, and the current balance is 0 renminbi. A bolt from the blue. Jiang Zhining was stunned for 2 seconds and rushed towards Bo Hanyang. Bo Hanyang, what did you do? You spent 200,000 in just one afternoon. As soon as the little woman came over, Bo Hanyang smelled the faint scent on her body. The scene in the bathroom before flashed before his eyes. His whole body tensed up and he looked up at Jiang Zhining. Household expenditure. The man's tone was dull and calm. Jiang Zhining was almost irritated by the man's calmness. How can an ordinary driver spend 200,000 yuan in less than 2 hours? Is he a driver or a money-shredding machine? Household expenses? Where is the expenditure? This is 200,000. Lunch, car? Bo Hanyang's answer was as concise as usual. Jiang Zhining used to be quite fed up with his cold and aloof attitude. Now I just wish I could pry his mouth open and make him tell me the whole story. Calm. Jiang Zhining, calm down. After taking 2 deep breaths, Jiang Zhining managed to calm down. That lunch cost 100,000. Did you get the receipt? Do you have an invoice? Bring it to me. Bo Hanyang looked at her calmly. Didn't they say you are the number 1 lady? They also said that, but that was in the past. Jiang Zhining stretched out her hand to Bo Hanyang. Where are the documents and invoices? Don't tell me they didn't give you the documents. Bo Hanyang picked up the piece of paper from the book and handed it to her. Jiang Zhining looked at the 2 thin pieces of paper in her palm, her eyes sparking. Just these 2 pieces of paper cost 100,000 yuan. After seeing the price clearly, Jiang Zhining's eyes went dark and he almost fainted. That pot of wine is actually 88,000. Didn't Ji Feiyu say it was a gift to me? He actually charged for it. What a profiteer! What a profiteer! Jiang Zhining had swallowed the entire bottle of wine, and he didn't know what to say. He could only feel heartache. If she had known the wine was so expensive, she would not have drunk it. Bo Hanyang observed Jiang Zhining's reaction calmly, and when he saw that she looked heartbroken, a hint of inquiry flashed in his eyes. Jiang Zhining's investigation data is clean and has nothing to do with Di Jing. But sometimes, the cleaner something is, the more problems it may have. That's why he deliberately spent money like water and forced Jiang Zhining to ask the person behind the scenes for money. If that person really exists. Bo Hanyang's eyes turned cold, and the temperature around him suddenly dropped several degrees. 100,000 is indeed not expensive to buy a car, but where is the car? In the underground garage. Jiang Zhining carefully put away the receipt and invoice and looked at Bo Hanyang seriously. Bo Hanyang, we need to have a good talk. Bo Hanyang closed the book and maneuvered his wheelchair to look directly at Jiang Zhining, as if waiting for her to speak. Jiang Zhining pursed her lips. I didn't tell you about my financial situation before because I thought our marriage was just a temporary solution and we would get divorced soon. But, it seems that I didn't consider it comprehensively. My father passed away some time ago, and my mother became sick due to the stress. She was diagnosed with heart disease and needs to be hospitalized. The daily cost of imported medicines is not low. I haven't graduated from graduate school yet, and I only have some part-time income and a little savings. I also said that I won't let you go hungry or thirsty, but I'm not the eldest daughter of the Jiang family now, and I can't afford the luxurious life of a wealthy family. I'm just an ordinary person now, and we will live an ordinary life in the future. You regret it now. Jiang Zhining never thought that after she said so sincerely, Bohanyan's response would be this. Really? A quick marriage is fun for a while, but it will end in a funeral. She closed her eyes and told herself not to argue with the patient. That's not what I meant. I just want to say that we should try to save money in the future, okay? We should try not to go to restaurants like the one we had at noon, okay? Okay, I didn't plan on ordering any wine for lunch. When it comes to wine, Jiang Zhining thought of the 88,000 yuan and wished she could twist Ji Feiyu's head off. The man looked carefree and foolish, but he turned out to be a black and white man who cheated her out of 88,000 yuan. You were the one who said you wanted to buy the car. Jiang Zhining paused. From this perspective, it seems that the man really didn't spend any money. Moreover, maybe the man went to the restaurant at noon just to meet friends and had no plans to eat. Thinking of this, Jiang Zhining secretly glanced at Bohanyan. She didn't know if it was her illusion, but she actually saw a trace of grievance on Bohanyan's face. She curled her hands up guiltily. Sorry, I don't mean to blame you. Well, there's no money in the card now. I'll transfer 10,000 into it first, and I'll have income in 2 days. I used to be very frugal. Jiang Zhining looked up and saw Bohanyan with his eyes lowered, looking lonely. After the car accident, I feel like life is meaningless, except for when I swiped my card today. Bohanyan didn't say anything else, but Jiang Zhining understood his subtext. Jiang Zhining shuddered when she thought of what Bohanyan said about the world and life. Could this person be depressed? When my father just passed away, my mother was very depressed for a while and even had suicidal tendencies. Fortunately, she discovered it in time, and with the intervention of a psychologist, her mother gradually recovered. I heard that people will experience depression symptoms after experiencing a major misfortune. His peripheral vision caught a glimpse of the distress on Jiang Zhining's little face. Bohanyan moved his fingers slightly, and a hint of interest flashed in his eyes. The little girl is still too young to fight with him. Chapter 22. She wants to make Jiang Zhining's life a living hell. Fearing that Bohanyan's depression would worsen, Jiang Zhining softened her voice. You still have to spend where you need to, but... The cell phone suddenly rang. It was Jiang's mother calling. Jiang Zhining had no choice but to answer the phone. Come to the hospital immediately. Before she could reply, the other party hung up the phone. I'm going to the hospital, you. I'll go too. Bohanyan followed him towards the door. Jiang Zhining paused and looked back vigilantly. That's not necessary. It's better for your body to rest at home. You misunderstood. I just wanted to try out the new car. Is that so? Jiang Zhining breathed a sigh of relief. She was startled and thought that Bohanyan wanted to go with her to see Jiang's mother. It's too late today, and it's not convenient to test drive the car. I'll take you for a ride someday when there's no time and the weather is good. After Jiang Zhining finished speaking, she didn't give Bohanyan a chance to answer. She took her bag and car keys and left. Bohanyan calmly picked up the phone and said, Bring a car insurance contract here, the most expensive one. Lin Yu looked confused when he received the order. Car insurance contract. Wasn't the car already insured? Not knowing that the $10,000 was also in danger, Jiang Zhining drove straight to the hospital. Before I even reached the door of the ward, I could faintly hear my aunt's powerful voice. She is a good daughter you have educated. It's okay that she bullies Xia all the time, but now she actually ordered someone to drive a car and hit Xia. She is trying to force me to die. The bodyguard at the door saw Jiang Zhining coming and lowered his voice. Ms. Jiang, you'd better not go in now. How long has it been going on? She came over and made a scene this afternoon. She smashed everything in the ward and even beat up my wife. The bodyguard looked apologetic. She brought a few people with her and we couldn't stop them. Thanks for your hard work. Jiang Zhining picked up her phone and clicked on the transfer button. This is your bonus. I'll have to work harder for you next time. After that, she gently opened the door under the worried gaze of her bodyguard. As soon as the door opened, a dark shadow flew over. Miss Jiang, be careful. The bodyguard stood sideways in front of Jiang Zhining and groaned. Apple rolled out of the ward. Jiang Zhining's eyes suddenly turned cold and he suppressed his anger. Are you okay? I'm fine. You guard the door. After saying that, she closed the door of the ward and looked at Cheng Shuya coldly. Auntie is so angry. Why did she come to my mother's ward instead of asking the doctor to prescribe gunpowder? As soon as Cheng Shuya saw Jiang Zhining, she pounced on her with bared fangs and claws. Bitch! How do you come here? I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death and bury you with Xia. Jiang Zhining looked at her coldly, raised his foot and kicked her out. R. Cheng Xiaoyao bumped into the wall, collapsed to the ground and screamed in pain. Jiang Zhining didn't even look at her, and walked around the broken glass on the ground to the bedside. Before he could see clearly what was happening to Jiang's mother, he was slapped in the face. Bang! You are really lawless now. Why don't you apologize to your aunt? Jiang Mu's voice was close at her ear, but Jiang Zhining felt it was so far away that it seemed to come from another world. She covered her face and looked at Jiang's mother expressionlessly. That's the third time, Mom. This is the third time you beat me without asking why. Mother Jiang felt guilty when she saw her eyes, and she blinked and looked at Cheng Xiaoyao. Xiaoyao, don't be angry, I will let this girl apologize to you right away. Xia is a blessed child, don't worry, she will be fine. It's okay. You think you are God. Just say it's okay and Xia will be fine. If anything happens to Xia, you will all be buried with my Xia. Cheng Shuya felt severe pain in her chest and back. She didn't dare to hit Jiang Zhining anymore and lay on the ground screaming. Jiang Zhining was annoyed by her noise and said impatiently, Why are you mourning? Is Jiang Miexia dead? Shut up. Jiang's mother raised her hand and wanted to hit her, but Jiang Zhining dodged sideways. She looked down at Jiang's mother, her dear eyes clear and sharp. Mom, have you been lying in the hospital for so long that your mind is confused? You believe everything she says. If one day she says I killed someone, you will believe it too. What's your attitude? Jiang's mother looked very unhappy. That's your aunt. How could she lie to you? After these words were spoken, the ward fell into silence. Cheng Shuya was stunned by these words. Is there really something wrong with Yishulan's brain? Didn't you love that little bitch Jiang Zhining the most in the past? Why are you willing to speak up for her now? This is fine. As long as they can get Jiang Zhining in, Jiang's will be theirs. She was just worrying about what to do with Jiang Zhining when this incident happened to Miexia. It was really God's help to her. Cheng Shuya's eyes flashed with pride, and she quietly took out her cell phone to call the police. Jiang Zhining withdrew his hands in disbelief and put the hair that he had quietly taken from Jiang's mother into his pocket, his heart chilled to the extreme. The purpose of this trip to the hospital had been achieved. She didn't want to see Jiang's mother again, so she turned around and left. I didn't do it, I have something else to do, so I'm leaving now. You can't leave. Cheng Shuya rushed over and hugged Jiang Zhining's calf. You want to leave after beating someone up? There's no such thing in the world. Jiang Zhining lowered her eyes coldly. Aunt, please don't talk nonsense. I was just acting in self-defense before. What self-defense? Where did I hit you? Who saw it? It was you who kicked me in the chest and it still hurts. She was obviously being unreasonable, and Jiang Zhining frowned and looked outside the door. Xiao Ju, come in for a moment. The bodyguard was stunned when he saw the scene inside the door. Please pull her away, gently. Otherwise, I don't know what crime you will be accused of. Xiao Ju nodded, called a few more people in, and lifted Cheng Xiaoyao up like a pig. Seeing that Jiang Zhining was about to leave the ward, Cheng Shuya roared like a pig being slaughtered. Someone's murdered. Someone, come. Someone's murdered. Jiang Zhining, don't leave. Jiang Zhining is here. A weak female voice came from outside the door, drowned out by Cheng Shuya's voice. Jiang Zhining raised her eyes and looked outside the door. Jiang Miexia was pushed in a wheelchair. She stared at Jiang Zhining with a gloomy face, her eyes were mad and twisted, and she gritted her teeth and said, Jiang Zhining, you dare to appear in front of me. It's all this bitch who ruined her. She wants to make Jiang Zhining's life a living hell. Jiang Zhining looked at her leisurely, and said in a cold tone similar to Jiang Miexia's, "Hey, isn't this my good cousin? What happened to her leg? Could it be that she is disabled?" She deliberately emphasized the word disabled, which made Jiang Miexia's chest heave. "R. Jiang Zhining. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Who have you called the police?" There was a sound at the door, and everyone in the room looked at the uniformed public official. Cheng Shuyao's eyes lit up and she yelled, "It was me. I called the police. Chapter 23. I have witnesses. You guys are finally here. If you hadn't come, I would have been beaten to death." Cheng Shuyao's tears came suddenly and she cried as if she had suffered a great injustice. The public official looked around the ward and his eyes fell on several bodyguards. "What are you doing?" Xiao Zhu looked at Jiang Zhining, and after understanding what Jiang Zhining meant, he let go of Cheng Shuyao. "My chest hurts so much. It's her. She kicked me so hard. She wants to kill me. She is doing this on purpose. Hand over all your cell phones and take them all away." Cheng Shuyao immediately got up from the ground, and when she passed by Jiang Zhining, she said proudly, "You dare to hit me? Today I will make you spend the rest of your life in jail and avenge our Xia." Jiang Zhining glared at her coldly, his expression unchanged. Not seeing any fear on Jiang Zhining's face, Cheng Shuyao gritted her teeth in anger. What if she's tough now? There will be a time when she'll beg for mercy. After everyone had left, Jiang Zhining walked to the cabinet and picked up the little rabbit doll on it. "I told you to apologize to your aunt, but you refused and insisted on making a fuss like this. If this gets out, the Jiang family will lose face." Jiang Zhining heard Jiang's mother's voice from behind. She tightened her grip, her fingertips sinking deeply into the rabbit's fur. Even though her heart was already broken, her eyes still turned red from the pain. "It's getting late, Mom, go to bed early." "What rest? How can I rest when you make such a fuss? If you really want to do this for my own good, when you get there, apologize to your aunt and stop making trouble. Given your aunt's temper, I'm afraid you'll have to stay in the police station for a few days to vent your anger. Don't worry, I will talk to your aunt and won't let you stay in there for too long." Jiang Zhining felt a chill in his heart and looked at Jiang's mother in disbelief. "Do you still want me to have a criminal record?" "What do you mean I asked you to have a criminal record? Did I ask you to hit someone? If you had listened to me and apologized to your aunt earlier, wouldn't it have turned out like this? Ningning, you are an adult now. You should learn to be responsible for your own actions." Yes, adults should be responsible for their own actions. But the person who should be responsible is not me. After saying that, she turned and left under Jiang's mother's unpleasant look. Inside Ningqing Public Security Bureau, Cheng Shuyao slumped in the chair, covering her chest with her right hand, wailing from time to time. "It hurts. It hurts so much." Her acting was so obvious that the public official opposite frowned and looked at the beautiful girl who was silent beside her. "Did you hit her?" Jiang Zhining pulled the rabbit's ears from time to time, absent-mindedly. "Yeah. You heard it, she admitted it." Cheng Shuya stood up excitedly. "According to Article 234 of the Criminal Law of the People's Republic of China, the crime of intentional injury and the crime of organizing the sale of human organs refer to the intentional injury to the body of another person, which shall be punished by fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years, criminal detention or control." Why don't you quickly lock up Jiang Zhining? At the end, he actually started giving orders directly. The public official's eyes turned cold and he slammed the table with a loud bang. "What a big tone! Are you a judge?" Cheng Shuya was startled and felt dissatisfied. "Isn't what I said the truth? How do you do things? She beat me, and there are witnesses. Why don't you lock her up? From what you said, you don't want to settle it privately. What do you mean by private settlement? Even if she kneels down and kowtows to me and confesses her guilt, I will not agree. Not only will I make her go to jail, I will make her stay there for the rest of her life." Cheng Shuyao glared at Jiang Zhining fiercely, and was very dissatisfied with the work efficiency of public officials. Such a simple matter takes so long. Where is your leader? I want to complain. You can file a complaint, but let's finish the matter first. What's your tone? Are you threatening us right in front of us? The public official knocked on the table and warned Cheng Shuyao. Cheng Shuyao was so angry that she was shaking all over, but she was helpless and began to cover her chest and cry out in pain. Jiang Zhining watched her series of operations coldly, gently took off the right eye of the little rabbit and handed it to the public official. This is the surveillance footage from the ward at the time. It is true that she threw something first and then tried to hit me. I was just defending myself. A surveillance camera suddenly appeared and Cheng Xiuyao immediately panicked. You actually installed surveillance cameras in the ward? Does your mother know you did this? You don't have to worry about that, aunt. Since you've learned the legal provisions, you should at least learn 2 more. According to Article 243 of the Criminal Law of the People's Republic of China, if someone fabricates facts to falsely accuse another person with the intention of subjecting him to criminal prosecution, he shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years, criminal detention or public surveillance if the circumstances are serious. If serious consequences are caused, he shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not less than 3 years but not more than 10 years. As he spoke, Jiang Zhining looked at the public official with a smile. My aunt just said that she would put me in jail for life. I wonder if this falls into the category of causing serious consequences. This counterattack was so brilliant that the public official couldn't help but chuckle. Let's check the surveillance first. Cheng Xiuyao never expected that things could turn out like this, and a raging fire burned in her heart. Jiang Zhining, this bitch. She had to let Jiang Zhining know how powerful she was. Jiang Zhining, you. Aunt, you don't need to say more. Jiang Zhining interrupted her coldly, I think the same as you do. Even if you kowtow to me and apologize now, I will never settle it privately. She shook her finger and smiled innocently and kindly. Cheng Xiuyao was so angry that her eyes went dark and she wished she could stab Jiang Zhining to death with her eyes. Jiang Zhining. Do you think you can get away with this today? Even if you can get away with beating me, can you still cover up the fact that you ordered someone to drive a car and hit Xie? As soon as the public officials finished checking the surveillance footage, they heard Cheng Xiuyao bringing up another case. They looked at each other and frowned seriously. What is this matter? Explain it clearly. I want to report this woman to the police. She is so vicious that she ordered someone to drive a car and hit my daughter at noon. My poor daughter had surgery for the whole afternoon, and the doctor said that she. Having said this, Cheng Xiuyao stopped talking. Xie has a lame leg. If this gets out, it will be difficult for her to marry into a good family. She didn't want anyone to know until there was completely no hope. Thinking of Xie's reaction after learning about the situation, Cheng Xiuyao cried out with all her heart. My poor Xie. My daughter. She was so young, but she almost lost her life at the hands of her cousin. Is there any justice in the world? The public officials were annoyed by her noise and they frowned and banged their desks. There are surveillance cameras here. You just heard the consequences of false accusations. Let me ask you again, is what you are saying true? Cheng Xiuyao felt inexplicably guilty, but when she thought of the driver who had been bribed, she hardened her heart, gritted her teeth and nodded. Of course it's true, I have witnesses. This time, she didn't believe that she can send Jiang Zhining in. Chapter 24. No wonder Sanye is so concerned. The driver was soon summoned to the recording room. As soon as the thin middle-aged man walked in, Cheng Xiuyao immediately looked at Jiang Zhining triumphantly, her eyes full of malice. She had already negotiated with the driver and insisted that it was Jiang Zhining who ordered it. Today, she will definitely send Jiang Zhining to jail. At 12:10 p.m., in front of Qinghe restaurant, did you bump into someone? The man rubbed his hands nervously, looking very honest and simple. Keep talking, was it this woman who ordered you to do this? Seeing the man remain silent, Cheng Xiuyao stood up anxiously and pointed at Jiang Zhining. Look carefully, is it this woman? Sit down. The civil servant slammed the table, looking impatient. Did I ask you to speak? Cheng Xiuyao sat down awkwardly. I'm not in a hurry. As she spoke, she winked at the middle-aged man. What are you standing there for? Come on. Do you still want to treat your mother? The middle-aged man's face turned red, and he was sweating profusely, not sure if it was because he was nervous or for some other reason. Seeing this, Jiang Zhining took out a piece of paper from her bag and handed it to him. Don't be nervous, just tell the truth. It's not your responsibility, so naturally no one can go beyond the law and make you bear the responsibility. The man looked up and met Jiang Zhining's pure, kind and clear eyes, feeling a pang of guilt. Such a kind girl, he actually bewitched and agreed to frame her. The man's eyes flashed with his unconscious mother on the hospital bed and the words of the lawyer not long ago. Don't worry, I've carefully watched the surveillance video. It was Jiang Zhining who took the initiative to rush over. The responsibility is not yours, and you don't need to bear any compensation for this. If the other party embarrasses you, I can be your defense lawyer for free. The man clenched his fists and his eyes became firm. I did hit someone, but it was the girl who rushed over to me. I was not speeding. You can check the surveillance. What did you say? The smug look on Cheng Shuya's face froze and she looked at the driver in disbelief. You are confused, what nonsense are you talking about? It was Jiang Zhining who ordered you to hit my daughter, and Jiang Zhining even gave you some money. How dare you give false testimony? Do you want to go to jail? You know you will go to jail for perjury, but you still want to bribe me to do it. What are you thinking? The man was so angry that he put the bank card he had been holding on the table. I want to report it. This woman found me this afternoon and bribed me to do perjury and frame others. There is also a recording in my phone. Cheng Shuya was furious and blurted out, You actually recorded it? You? Auntie, are you admitting that you bribed the driver to frame me? Jiang Zhining glanced at Cheng Shuya coldly, her clear eyes filled with chilliness. First you falsely accuse me of intentional injury, and now you falsely accuse me of intentional homicide. Aunt, for multiple crimes, guess how many years you will be sentenced to? What nonsense are you talking about? What false accusation? I didn't do it. Cheng Shuya slumped in the chair, her face pale, and she tried to argue weakly. The public official retrieved the recording, checked the bank card opening source, and directly handcuffed Cheng Shuya. What are you doing? How can you just listen to his one-sided story? He must have colluded with Jiang Zhining, right? That must be the case. Besides, where is the surveillance? Without surveillance, who can prove that what the driver said is right? Cheng Shuya fought stubbornly and shouted at the top of her lungs. Fortunately, after retrieving the surveillance footage, she bribed the restaurant staff to delete it, otherwise, she would have really been killed by Jiang Zhining today. We do need to retrieve the surveillance footage. No one can leave until the footage is retrieved. Just as he finished speaking, there was a knock on the door, followed by a young man wearing glasses who walked in. The man was wearing a neat suit and had his hair combed back, looking very capable. He walked straight to Jiang Zhining and bent slightly. Ms. Jiang, I'm Xie Yuan, the lawyer your husband hired for you. Husband. Jiang Zhining was stunned for 2 seconds before realizing that the person was talking about Bo Hanyang. But how did Bo Hanyang know that she would be here? He even hired a lawyer for her. Xie Yuan looked at Jiang Zhining calmly. Her face was indeed beautiful, but what was rare was her pair of clear and pure eyes. Such clean eyes were rarely seen among the noble ladies in the imperial capital. No wonder the third master would take it so seriously. Xie Yuan pushed up his glasses, took out a USB flash drive from his briefcase and placed it on the table. Here is the video footage from the lunch at Qinghe restaurant. The video footage is enough to prove that it was Ji Shitong who pushed Jiang Zhining, causing Jiang Zhining to rush out and crash into Mr. Wang's car. The responsibility lies with Jiang Zhining, not Mr. Wang. As for Miss Jiang instructing Mr. Wang to kill Jiang Zhining, it is a malicious slander. The driver knew that Cheng Shuya had deleted the video. He had already been in despair, and now when he saw the surveillance video, he was almost in tears. He wiped his eyes and thanked Xie Yuan repeatedly. Thank you, lawyer. Thank you for clearing my name. I really don't know how to thank you enough. Xie Yuan took out a business card from his pocket and handed it over, saying meaningfully, This is my business card. If you need it, I can defend you for free. Cheng Shuya couldn't understand why something that was clearly a done deal had turned out like this. She glared at Xie Yuan fiercely, What kind of lawyer are you? And where did you forge the video? Well, you guys teamed up to bully me and frame me. Do you really think I'm a vegetarian? I want to find a lawyer too. I want to find a lawyer too. I'll send all of you to jail. Xie Yuan's expression was cold, and his black eyes were sparkling with excitement. They blatantly fabricated facts and insulted and slandered me. It has been a long time since I have been insulted so severely. I would like to kindly remind Ms. Cheng to prepare compensation for mental damages. I am in a good mood and am willing to settle it privately. Cheng Shuya was so angry that her eyes were spitting fire and she was furious and helpless. You're just a small lawyer. Who do you think you are? You actually asked me to prepare compensation for mental damages? And you want to settle it privately? You're blackmailing me. I can sue you. What are you arguing about? What do you think this place is? After yelling at Cheng Shuyao, the public official looked at Jiang Zhining gently and said, "We have checked the surveillance here, you can go back. But it's best not to leave Ningqing in the next few days. If there is any situation, I will need to trouble you." After that, he looked at the driver and said, "Come here and take a statement." When Cheng Shuyao heard this, she immediately became unhappy. "You're letting her go now? My chest still hurts. I want a medical report." Before she could finish her words, the civil servant glared at her and Cheng Shouyao's momentum immediately weakened. "Since she's gone, I can go too, right? Hurry up and untie me, my wrists are red." She made so much noise that the public officials were overwhelmed. "Stay still. You've got yourself into serious trouble. Someone will take you to the detention center soon." "What?" Cheng Shuyao's eyes widened and she immediately panicked. "What detention center? Are you kidding me? Jiang Zhining, where are you going? I'm your biological aunt, and you're just going to leave me alone like this? Where's your conscience?" Chapter 25, A Hero Saves a Beauty. Jiang Zhining paused, turned around and looked at Cheng Shuyao with a smile. "Aunt, don't worry, you are of course my real aunt, I will definitely do as you wish. Even if you kneel down and kowtow to me and admit your mistake, and beg me, I will not settle it privately." After saying that, she walked away without caring about Cheng Shuyao's reaction. As soon as he went out, he met Bo Hanyang and Jiang Zhining was stunned. "Why are you here?" Bo Hanyang looked her around inconspicuously, his eyes falling on her slightly flushed cheeks, his eyes flashing slightly. "Are you okay?" Jiang Zhining pushed him out, somewhat absent-mindedly. Xie Yuan took in the interaction between the two without making any expression, his brows slightly raised. The third master couldn't even wait a moment and came over to pick him up in person. Since that person, I haven't seen third master treat anyone so specially. That's really interesting. Suddenly, a cold gaze came from the side. Xie Yuan looked over sharply and met Bo Hanyang's cold eyes. "I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Feel free to contact me if you have anything else." "Thank you, lawyer. Thank you for today." Jiang Zhining perked up and smiled at him. As expected, seeing Bo Hanyang's cold face, Xie Yuan laughed in his heart and slipped away quickly. "The car is over there." Jiang Zhining looked in the direction that Bo Hanyang pointed, and indeed saw the car parked on the side of the road, which surprised her a little. "Why did you drive the car here? Who drove it?" "A former colleague you've met." Sitting in the car, Jiang Zhining was embarrassed to look at Lin Yu. "It's so late. Sorry to bother you. We are all friends, you are welcome." Lin Yu smiled and started the car. Jiang Zhining realized later that something was missing and spoke up quickly. "Wait, I think I forgot to take my phone. Otherwise, you guys go back first, and I'll take a taxi back later. Why spend more money? We'll wait for you." Bo Hanyang looked at her indifferently. Jiang Zhining originally wanted to do a paternity test alone, and just found an excuse, but she didn't expect Bo Hanyang to be so insistent. One day earlier or later, the result will not change. She pursed her lips and didn't insist. "Okay, I'll be right back." As soon as Jiang Zhining got out of the car, the interior suddenly became quiet again. Lin Yu glanced at Bo Hanyang through the mirror and spoke carefully, "Madam should not just come here to get her phone. You noticed that, too." Bo Hanyang looked at Jiang Zhining's back and tapped the armrest with his finger. "How's the investigation going?" "The results haven't come out yet, but if nothing unexpected happens, the wife is not Yishulan's biological daughter." After that, the car fell silent again. "Jiang Zhining, what are you trying to do again?" Jiang Zhining took out her cell phone and ran into Ji Shitong and Bo Jingxing, who were rushing over. Ji Shitong felt so angry when she saw Jiang Zhining. She was originally with Bo Jingxing, thinking of getting pregnant as soon as possible to avoid the fake pregnancy being exposed. As a result, just as the two of them rolled onto the bed, she received a call asking her to come to the police station. It must be that bitch Jiang Zhining's doing again. "Jiang Zhining, can you please stop being so persistent? The past is the past, you are already married, and brother Jingxing and I will be married soon, too. Can't we just live our own lives? Who is the one who is pestering me?" Isn't it you and Bo Jingxing who have been approaching me time and time again? I would like to advise you not to come up to me and poison my eyes. You. Is Ji Shitong here? Come in if you are. Ji Shitong glared at Jiang Zhining fiercely and had to go in first. As soon as she entered, Bo Jingxing immediately approached Jiang Zhining. Well, have you thought it through? As long as you make a public statement, I will immediately help you make an appointment to meet with Mr. Zhao. I'm afraid Mr. Zhao has been avoiding you recently. Bo Hanyang was right. Jiang Zhining contacted Mr. Zhao's secretary, but the secretary told her that Mr. Zhao's schedule for the next 6 months was fully booked and he had no spare time. Extremely perfunctory. Even so, there was no way she would agree to Bo Jingxing's rude request. Jiang Zhining took a few steps back and kept a safe distance from Bo Jingxing. Boss Bo, you have a bad memory at such a young age. I told you very clearly last time that I will never agree to your request. Even if you kneel down and beg me today, it is impossible. Do you understand? Jiang Zhining was too lazy to talk nonsense with him and turned to leave, but Bo Jingxing kept approaching with a stern face. Jiang Zhining, you have rejected me again, and you are causing trouble for Ji Shitong. Are you trying to arouse my interest? The more Bo Jingxing spoke, the more he felt that this was possible. Jiang Zhining must have done this to piss him off, otherwise, why would she marry a disabled person? Maybe Jiang Zhining and that disabled guy didn't even get married. Bo Jingxing stretched out his hands to support the wall, trapping Jiang Zhining in place. In fact, I have always liked you in my heart. You don't have to use so many tricks. As long as you ask, I can pretend that nothing happened, help you inherit the Jiang family, and give you a grand wedding. Jiang Zhining was really shocked by Bo Jingxing's train of thought and shamelessness, so much so that she didn't push him away in time. Gigi. A man's cold voice came from the side, and Jiang Zhining and Bo Jingxing turned their heads to look. Bo Hanyang controlled the wheelchair and slowly came over, with an endless chill surging around him. He didn't know when the wheelchair was raised, and when he got to the front, Bo Jingxing found that the man was half a head taller than him. Those deep black eyes were like two sharp blades, as if they were going to cut Bo Jingxing's skin and flesh. Without waiting for Bo Jingxing to speak, the man suddenly attacked. The white and slender hand accurately grasped Bo Jingxing's wrist, which was leaning against the wall. Crack! Bo Jingxing's face suddenly turned pale and his wrists dropped limply. Bo Hanyang let go with disgust and took out a handkerchief from his pocket to wipe it. Stay away from my wife. An order that cannot be refused, strong and overbearing. Everything happened so fast and so suddenly that it took Jiang Zhining several seconds to react. She pushed Bo Hanyang's wheelchair and ran out. If you want to fight, you should find a small forest with no one around and no surveillance. What are you thinking? Fighting in the Public Security Bureau, what if you get charged with intentional injury? Jiang Zhining's soft voice was accompanied by rapid breathing, and Bo Hanyang's thin lips curled slightly. Don't you feel bad? Why, did your hand hurt? As Jiang Zhining spoke, she leaned over to look at Bo Hanyang's hands, which were as white as bamboo shoots. They didn't look injured. Faintly hearing a chuckle, Jiang Zhining looked at Bo Hanyang suspiciously. But she saw that the man was still as cold as an iceberg, and she blinked suspiciously. Did you just laugh? Lin Yu saw Jiang Zhining pushing Bo Hanyang and running wildly from afar. Fearing that something might happen, he hurriedly got out of the car and rushed over. As soon as I came over and heard this, I looked towards Bo Hanyang instinctively. Meeting a pair of cold eyes, Lin Yu quickly withdrew his gaze and looked at Jiang Zhining. What happened? Nothing, Mr. Bo just saved the damsel in distress. Chapter 26, Bo Hanyang, are you angry? Jiang Zhining smiled, her dear eyes sparkled, and her whole body looked high-spirited, lively and bright. Lin Yu was infected by her smile and also curled up the corners of his mouth. The atmosphere in the car was cheerful and relaxed. The Public Security Bureau and the Jiang family villa were only a few blocks apart. When Jiang Zhining saw the place where they used to live from afar, the smile on her face gradually faded. She touched a small bag in her pocket, looking forlorn. Bo Hanyang, have you ever felt like you were in the wilderness? The wind was howling all around you, and you were the only one left in the world. Bo Hanyang raised his eyebrows slightly and looked sideways. The little woman looked like an eggplant hit by frost, wilted and listless. Sadness and loneliness flowed from her like a substance. Of course, Bo Hanyang had this feeling before, even worse. The upper class is never short of money and power, but rarely of genuine love. Somehow, he didn't like Jiang Zhining's look, so he took out his cell phone and operated it a few times. Buzz. Jiang Zhining clicked on the message and saw that it was another bank deduction message, and she immediately took a breath. What a joke, Bo Hanyang was sitting next to her. How could he have spent 5,000 yuan by swiping his card? Bo Hanyang, where's the card? I need to call the bank. Our card has been stolen. What is fraud? Bo Hanyang looked at her calmly. If you mean a deal of 5,000 yuan, that's Xie Yuan's appearance fee. Appearance fee? Jiang Zhining was shocked. Bo Hanyang, you've been cheated. Which lawyer's appearance fee is 5,000 yuan? Jiang Zhining used to go directly to Uncle Ju for anything, and had never learned about lawyers' fees. Are they so expensive? Impossible. The little girl became lively again. Bo Hanyang was in a good mood and explained a few more things to her. Xie Yuan is very capable, this price is already a bargain. Is it very powerful? I've never heard of it. Jiang Zhining grumbled, feeling extremely distressed, but still looked at the deduction text message again in disbelief. Is it true that the card was not stolen? Her heartache was so real that Lin Yu glanced at the rearview mirror and somehow thought of his little sister at home. He couldn't help but speak out to comfort her. Lawyer Xie is a famous lawyer in imperial capital. Many people cannot hire him even if they have money. His appearance fee in imperial capital starts at 500,000 yuan. Noisy. A voice wrapped in ice came from inside the car. Lin Yu shuddered all over and quickly shut up. A famous lawyer in the imperial capital. Jiang Zhining looked at Bo Hanyang suspiciously. How did you know him? The little girl was as sharp as ever. Bo Hanyang was not at all flustered and lied without hesitation. I used to run around in imperial capital for a while when I was young. Really? Jiang Zhining looked straight at Bo Hanyang with a curious expression. As a driver in the imperial capital, I can not only meet wealthy and powerful people like young Master Ji, but also meet a famous lawyer like Xie Yuan. Bo Hanyang's eyes flickered slightly, and a few words came out of his thin lips. The Bo family's personal driver. The Bo family. Jiang Zhining frowned. Bo Hanyang looked at her deeply. You know. Only a little. Before, Bo Jingxing said that the Bo family might move the Ningqing branch to Dijing, and she listened carefully. I heard that the Bo family is now ruled by Third Master Bo. It is rumored that Third Master Bo is bloodthirsty and cruel, and is a bloodthirsty tyrant who never changes his mind. And what else? Bo Hanyang felt cold all over, and his pair of black eyes were so cold that there was no warmth at all. Jiang Zhining didn't notice the change in the atmosphere in the car and thought about the gossip she had eaten before. These were all unverified rumors, and she didn't want to spread them. In short, he is a cruel person. That's all. Bo Hanyang's pair of dark eyes fell on Jiang Zhining, as if he wanted to see through her eyes and see through all her thoughts. Jiang Zhining blinked her clear eyes and nodded seriously. Yes, imperial capital is so far away, how could I possibly know so much information about the Bo family? The little woman's answer was flawless and there was really no flaw to be found. It's not that he really doesn't know, it's just that his acting is superb. Bo Hanyang closed his eyes again. Don't take rumors seriously. Indeed. Jiang Zhining agreed very much. Perhaps the person in charge of the Bo family is even more brutal and bloodthirsty than the rumors say, otherwise, why are so many people afraid of him? Lin Yu finally couldn't help but glance at the rearview mirror, and as expected, he saw Bo Hanyang's extremely cold face. Madam is really great, arranging things like this in front of the Third Master. I'm really curious about how the wife will react after she knows the true identity of the Third Master. Let's not talk about this anymore. What about the 5,000 yuan from before? Didn't we agree to spend money frugally? How come you've spent another 10,000 in less than a day? Bo Hanyang didn't even open his eyes and was very frugal with his words. Car insurance. His voice was cold. Jiang Zhining realized something belatedly and moved closer to Bo Hanyang. Bo Hanyang, you are not angry. The man suddenly opened his eyes. Their eyes met unexpectedly. Jiang Zhining blinked and almost drowned herself in those calm and deep black eyes. Jiang Zhining's heart trembled, realizing that the distance between the two of them seemed too close, and she leaned back subconsciously. Careful. With a hand pressing on the back of her head, Jiang Zhining lost her balance and fell straight into Bo Hanyang's arms. R. Jiang Zhining bumped into Bohanyan's chest unexpectedly, and let out a light cry, rubbing the sour tip of her nose. A faint woody scent filled her nose, and it smelled so good that she couldn't help but sniff it. Noticing her little movement, Bohanyan couldn't help but ruffle her hair, with a hint of smile in his voice. Did it hurt? Jiang Zhining stepped out of Bohanyan's arms and glared at him accusingly. Yeah. It must have been red. After she finished speaking, she met a pair of smiling eyes and was stunned. You're laughing? You're not angry anymore. Bohanyan released his hand that was clasped on the back of Jiang Zhining's head and returned to his icy look. Sit down. Jiang Zhining was afraid that the previous accident would happen again, so she sat down hurriedly. It was the first time for her to have such close contact with a man, and her heart almost jumped out of her chest. However, Bohanyan looks really good when he smiles. The image of Bohanyan laughing softly appeared in front of her again. Jiang Zhining's cheeks flushed and she didn't dare to think about it anymore. He hurriedly picked up his phone to divert his attention. As soon as I opened my phone, I saw the bank card deduction information and my heart started beating faster again. This time I was angry. Bohanyan, we really can't spend money recklessly. I'm really just a poor college student who hasn't graduated yet. I don't have much savings to squander. If you don't spend money recklessly, you won't have money for food tomorrow. Car insurance and legal fees are both mandatory expenses. Jiang Zhining paused, but couldn't say anything to refute. She picked up her phone with a heartache and transferred money to Bohanyan. Bohanyan is simply the reincarnation of a money-shredding machine. He spends whatever he has, and only she can control it. Jiang Zhining pursed her lips and transferred 1,000 yuan to Bohanyan's WeChat. I transferred 1,000 to you. It's our living expenses for this week. Please spend it frugally. Chapter 27, Did Mrs. Bo know? The conversation between the two fell into Lin Yu's ears like a storm. Did he hear it right? The man in charge of the Bo family in the imperial capital actually reached out to ask for money to buy groceries. His wife only gave him 1,000 yuan. And it will take another week. Lin Yu was shocked. I hope Third Master is serious this time. Miss Jiang, what kind of magic do you have? Hearing no more sound, Lin Yu glanced in the mirror. Jiang Zhining had fallen asleep at some point, with her head swaying on the seat, and it seemed like she was going to hit the glass in the next second. Lin Yu was startled, but saw the Third Master suddenly take action and stand between Jiang Zhining and the glass. A cold gaze came, and Lin Yu hurriedly withdrew his gaze, pretending that nothing had happened. Jiang Zhining slept uneasily. In her dream, she was still thinking about the 210,000 yuan she had recently spent, and she kept muttering to herself. Bohanyan's eyes were deep, and with a flick of his wrist, the little woman's head rested on his shoulder. The next second, I heard the little woman's tiny murmur in my ears. Money loves me, I love money, and money comes from all directions. A faint laugh came from inside the car, almost imperceptible. Bohanyan moved his fingers, and finally couldn't help but touch Jiang Zhining's eyebrows. Little money grubber. The car became quiet again, and Lin Yu couldn't help but look at the mirror again. In the back seat, Bohanyan and Jiang Zhining leaned against each other with their eyes closed, feeling warm and harmonious. Perhaps, the appearance of Miss Jiang is not all bad. Having experienced so many things that day, Jiang Zhining slept very soundly and did not wake up until the car stopped in the garage. Lin Yuxian wanted to wake her up, but was restrained by Bohanyan's look. He could only watch Bohanyan pick up Jiang Zhining again. Third Master, Doctor or said you can no longer. I know my limits. The cold voice did not allow for any argument. Lin Yu had no choice but to send a message to Dr. Or. When they got home, Bohanyan didn't even look at the sofa bed and directly put Jiang Zhining on the big bed. Lin Yu endured it again, and finally said nothing. He just hoped that Miss Jiang could live up to the kindness of the Third Master. Public Security Bureau. Bo Jingxing's hand was in severe pain, and a doctor happened to pass by and helped him reposition his dislocated wrist. Despite this, he still broke out in a cold sweat due to the pain. Brother Jingxing, save me. Ji Shitong's cry for help was faintly heard from inside the door. Bo Jingxing pushed the door open and saw a civil servant about to handcuff Ji Shitong. What is this doing? Hearing their voice, Ji Shitong's tears instantly flowed down. Brother Jingxing, save me. I really didn't do anything. I am innocent. Before Bo Jingxing could speak, a civil servant beside him handcuffed Ji Shetong neatly and said coldly, "The video is right here, the evidence is irrefutable, how could they wrongly accuse you? Why do you lie so easily?" Ji Shetong's face flushed red, she had no way of defending herself, she stammered, I. After watching the video, Bo Jingxing looked at Ji Shetong with a complicated expression, as if he was looking at a stranger. Ji Shetong always behaved very kindly in front of him, but the person in the video was selfish and even pushed the people around him into a car accident in order to avoid the dog. Ji Shetong suddenly panicked and defended herself with tears in her eyes. "I was so scared at that time. The dog kept chasing me. I was so scared. Brother Jingxing, save me. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail." Bo Jingxing's face looked extremely ugly. He really wanted to leave, but he had to keep Ji Shetong. The matter between him and Ji Shetong had caused a lot of controversy, and it had already affected the company's stock price. If the matter became more serious, those shareholders might come to the company to make trouble. "Don't cry, you're pregnant, take care of yourself. Brother Jingxing." Ji Shetong was very moved. She threw herself into Bo Jingxing's arms and cried. Bo Jingxing looked at Cheng Shuya with a gloomy face. "Aunt Cheng, can you please consider the friendship between our two families and settle this matter privately?" Cheng Shuya glared at Ji Shetong fiercely, feeling relieved. "If she can't deal with that bitch Jiang Zhining, can't she deal with that bitch Ji Shetong? Boss Bo, I really want to settle this privately. But that girl Jiang Zhining is determined to sue me. I have no other choice." Jiang Zhining. Ji Shetong stepped out of Bo Jingxing's arms and said bitterly, "This matter is indeed related to her." Cheng Shuya was determined not to settle the matter privately, and Bo Jingxing was helpless for a while. Suddenly there was a knock on the door and a capable middle-aged woman walked in. "Aunt Zhang, why are you here?" "Master." Aunt Zhang smiled. "The old lady learned about this and asked me to come and take a look." Ji Shetong froze when she heard this, and her face turned pale instantly. "Did Madame Bo know?" "Finished." Aunt Zhang didn't even look at Ji Shetong, but looked at Cheng Shuya with a smile. "Ms. Cheng, may I have a word with you?" I don't know what Zhang Ma and Cheng Xiuyao said to each other, but when Cheng Xiuyao came back, she was smiling and agreed to settle the matter privately very happily. Although she couldn't figure out what Madame Bo meant, Ji Shetong was relieved that she didn't have to go to jail. "Master, please get in the car. The old lady wants to see you." Ji Shetong suddenly had a bad feeling in her heart. She held Bo Jingxing's arm tightly, and was about to get into the car. Aunt Zhang stepped aside and blocked Ji Shetong's way. "Miss Ji, it's getting late. You should go back so your family won't worry." Ji Shetong forced a smile and said, "I haven't seen Grandma Bo for a long time. I want to see Grandma Bo, too. Miss Ji, for your sake, the Bo family's stock price has fallen recently, causing immeasurable losses, and they just spent another 5 million. The Bo family has done their best for you. Tonight, it's a family affair, so it's not convenient to entertain guests." Every word Zhang Ma said was like a slap in Ji Shetong's face. Ji Shetong's face turned red, and she opened her mouth several times but couldn't utter a word. Bo Jingxing's voice came from inside the car. "Auntie Zhang, don't let Grandma wait too long." The black luxury car started and sprayed Ji Shetong with exhaust fumes. Ji Shetong clenched her hands angrily, her heart filled with rage. It's all that bitch Jiang Zhining's fault. The humiliation she suffered was all caused by Jiang Zhining. She will definitely return today's humiliation to Jiang Zhining 1,000 times. Jiang Zhining slept until dawn, and as expected, her phone was filled with a bunch of missed calls and text messages from her mother. She didn't look at it at all. After breakfast, she went straight to the hospital to do a paternity test. The results of the paternity test will not be known until tomorrow morning. Jiang Zhining simply blocked all contact methods for Jiang's mother and went to the express station to take home all the express parcels that had been piled up in the past 2 days. "Bo Hanyang, help me quickly, the things are good." When Jiang Zhining opened the door and saw Jiang's mother sitting on the sofa, her eyes widened in surprise. "Mother." Seeing Jiang Zhining coming back, Jiang's mother immediately stood up and said goodbye. "I'm leaving now, remember what you promised me."